I started recording.
Thank you. Welcome to the May meeting of the Manhattan Community Board on Transportation and Street Activity Permit Committee. That's a long title. Anyway, thank you. I'm Betty Kay, the chair, and I'm joined by Jeff Coleman, the co-chair, and Zach Bauer, the district manager. Of course, all the committee members. So let's get going. We have the first. So we need our slides at first.
Yeah.
You want to go to the agenda and I
Got it.
can't see anything.
Oh,
Where can I see them?
I will turn my monitor. And
We can go to the first presenter then. Just to make it very fun, it's Matt and Carrie already has her questions.
right. This is
What is that? I can't.
sign it. Just sign. There it is. Thank you. There. Oh, look at that.
I don't think I can.
When do I have to turn the screen?
Sorry. That's pretty
Anyway, is Abraham on how to be moved to Pampas? So he can.
Yeah, he's been moved over. Abraham, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Just introduce, you can feel free to present.
Great. So my name is Abraham Abreu. I am the City Map team leader here in the Technical Review Division at the Department of City Planning. And we heard that you guys were interested in the Streets Map app. It's a web app that we've recently put out about the City Map. So basically what I'm going to do is I have a really brief, and I mean brief, it's like 5 slides, just kind of introducing some key terms and what the app is and what the City Map is for those who might not be aware. And then we'll spend a little time doing a short demo. I'll show kind of what the interface is, how you access the various bits of information on the website, a couple of examples, things like that. And then if you guys have any questions after, I'll be glad to take them. So let me see. I don't use WebEx very much. Okay, share.
No, he has to share.
Yeah. Let's do screen.
We'll do a deep dive on Green Park.
And this is the wrong. Let's see. This is. There we go. Is that showing up properly for everybody? Are
No,
you seeing? No. What do you? Oh,
We see
it's
no.
supposed. Nothing. Well, that's no good.
see,
Um,
we see you.
It's supposed to be sharing. It was supposed to be sharing my screen. Where are you? Okay, let's see. Screen 1, share. There we go.
There you
Now I think we
I
should.
see your email. There it is.
Ooh, that's not good. I guess that's all foilable anyway, right? Is it showing PowerPoint now though?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. It's only been 4 years. You think we'd all be experts at this by now, right? Okay. So, street map overview. And so the first slide is just some terms. Well, this is agenda. So, key terms to know: what is the street map app? What can it be used for? What is the city map? And then I'll go over some couple quick resources for you, and then we'll do the demo. So first slide, key terms to know. I didn't really know what everyone's knowledge level is here, so forgive me if this is all stuff you already know, but here are some terms that I'll be using when we talk about this. So just kind of going alphabetically. Alteration map is the map that describes the changes being made to the city map by a given project application. It is it is included in the application package that the board reviews as part of ULURP. And they are typically signed off on by the borough president. Demapping streets, obviously, is removing a street from the city map. If it was a city-owned street, typically the demap portion of street will usually be purchased by the entity that applied for the demapping, or maybe kind of split among adjacent property owners. It depends on the nature of the project. Filing a map. So unlike a lot of other actions like zoning actions and such, um, getting approved by the CPC and the council is not like the end of the story for a map. Um, because there's real estate transactions involved, there may be time, to get all of that straightened out. Um, and only after all of that is ready to go is the map actually filed with the borough president, uh, a couple of city agencies, etc. And that's what makes the change in the map actually happen. So there could be quite a bit of time between ULURP wrapping up and the map actually getting filed and adopted. Um, Mapping street, adding street to the map. Paper street, there's not a lot of those in your district, but it's a street that exists on the city map, but for one reason or another was never actually built. There's a couple in CB1, which I'll show, but there's a lot of these in like Eastern Queens and Staten Island where they mapped out a street network, thinking that we were going to take over the world, and sometime later people were like, this is a wetland in Jamaica Bay. Maybe we shouldn't be building on this, and then it was never built. Um, I'll also show you some section maps. So each borough is divided into a bunch of sections. It covers the whole borough, and it shows the state of the city map at the time that the section map was drawn. So these are pretty good references, but you should always check the dates, and I'll show you how to do that because alteration maps might have happened after the section map was prepared. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the most recent thing. Last two, street line. It's bold line on alteration map, and it's what divides street from not street, so street from a park, street from private property. When you hear something being said, it's like a 60-foot wide map street. It's from street line to street line. When we think of a lot in kind of colloquial parlance, when we're talking about streets, a lot of times we think about, the roadway, right, curb to curb. That's not what the street line is. But that may be shown as a treatment line, which is a lighter line, which I will point out. So, what is the street map app? So here's a nice little screenshot. It's basically the online guide for the public to the city map. It's managed by us, the Department of City Planning. And through it, you can find alteration maps, section maps, and we have lots of layers, kind of supporting layers for tax lots, zoning information, a bunch of other things. If you like kind of street name trivia, there's a layer for all the like secondary names of streets. Like if you have like one block of a street that's named after somebody who lived there, you can find all that on there. These maps were formerly all paper, right? And Mylar. So the digitization of these maps began in the project started in 2015. And there's currently over 7,000 alteration maps included on this. So I said it's the online guide to the city map, right? So what can it be used for? So understanding the history of city map changes in any given area, finding out legal block dimensions, street widths, and elevations or grades. It's really good for doing background research when you're looking over a city map ULURP application. And you can use it also you can overlay tax lots and zoning information on top of the street map to see how those two play together. You can identify paper streets, and you can turn on an aerial image layer that can kind of help you see how the street lines mapped out on the city map actually coincide with what's out there in the real world, because sometimes they don't line up the way you might think they would intuitively. So this is just a screenshot of zooming in on 401 South End Avenue and showing all the maps that we have for that. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So yeah, it's the gateway to the city map. But what is the city map? It's the land deed to the public realm, basically, and it defines the legal boundaries of the city street and public realm. The things that it defines are dimensions of blocks, the angles of blocks, map street widths, and legal street grades and elevations. The city map is God when it comes to these things. Whatever the city map says it is what it officially legally is. What the city map says goes. There are also other things that are shown in the city map, like parks and public places, pier head and bulkhead lines, treatment lines showing curbs, things like that. The city map is not God when it comes to those. It's just illustrative, and those things are there for context, but the city map is not what defines what those things are. So this, we're gonna go through all of this in a minute when I do the sort of the demo, but I figured I would probably be sending this PowerPoint to you guys so that you can have all the links and stuff that are in it. And so I figured I would just put a slide that has some of the basics of what we're about to talk about so you can look at it later. But we'll go through all this in just a minute. In some resources, again, you'll get this present PowerPoint. So I have the URL for the street map website itself. There's a link to an example alteration map with explanatory notes. I'll go over the basics of how to read one of those maps, but if you want to freshen up that map, that link goes to a map that has a bunch of annotations about what everything means. The zoning application portal you're probably familiar with, but you can search for applications coming through city planning. If you choose, if you go to action type and you choose the code MM, that's for city map change, and you will find all the map changes there. I have the contact information for Hector Rivera, who's the head of the Manhattan Borough Present Topographic Bureau. So they are involved with the final review of alteration maps before they go into ULURP. And they also, city planning was made in the custodian of the city map in, I want to say, 1938 or so. Before that, it was completely in the hands of borough presidents. So if you're looking for something really, really old, we may not have it, but they might. And then last, I put myself. If you have questions down the line, always feel free to reach out. My team is, in charge of all things city map that come through DCP. So if you're, have a question about the process, if you are trying to find a map and you can't find it on the street map website, things like that, feel free to shoot me an email and I will do my best to help you. So enough chit chat. Let's actually look at this thing. All right, we're seeing the website.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So, few things on the interface. So whenever you first open up streets.planning.nyc.gov, it has this nice little welcome to the street map blurb on the side. And it's actually kind of nice because if you open up this little link here, says learn more about the official city map. It takes you to well, it takes a little bit about what the city map is, and then this is I directly link to it in the PowerPoint I'll send you, but it also has an example alteration map with annotations about what the different symbols and legend items stuff mean, so you can always come back here to refresh your memory of how to read these things because they can get overwhelming because there's a lot of stuff stacked on top of each other. So in terms of how to actually use this, so have anybody here used Zola before?
Looks like no one.
No? Oh, okay.
Manager.
I'm sorry? Someone has or hasn't?
District manager, is that?
What I have.
Okay, cool. So if you have used Zola, the interface is pretty similar, where it's all kind of organized in this left-hand taskbar here. So the first thing up here you have is search. You can search by address, or you click this little drop down. You can search by borough, block, and lot, whichever is easiest for you based on the information you have. We have here different layers you can toggle off and on. Street map layers, that's, will show you your street lines, different kinds of streets, your borough boundaries, street names, stuff to do with the pier head and bulkhead lines. This one, final section map. This is not turned on by default. I always, first thing I do when I come here is I turn it on, because if you don't have it on, then when you click on an area, it'll give you the alteration maps, but not the section map. So first thing I always do is I come and turn this little toggle on, and now you can see all of these little green squares, right? This is what I was talking about, how every borough is divided into a bunch of sections that cover the whole borough, and each of those squares is represented by a section map. So I always turn that on to start with. The next thing is adopted city map alterations. These are the alteration maps. So if you look at the map, there's this kind of like brownish bronze color. Those are where we have alteration maps and on file that have been adopted. And the darker it is, the more maps are stacked on top of each other in that location. So you can see down here, this part of Brooklyn, there's not that many, but over here there have been a bunch. There have been a ton kind of around the edge of a lower Manhattan here, but up kind of around here there haven't been any. So it varies from area to area. And there's a slider here if you're only looking for a certain date range, like if you're only looking for new ones, I'm going to drag my 1903 up to, I don't know, 1980 or something, 1984. You see a lot of them went away. What that tells you is if we do it the opposite way, let's do 1903 to 1960, right? So it looks like a lot of the alterations to the city map in your district were pre-1960. And not a lot has happened since then. Other layers you can turn on, you have pending city map alterations. These come up in this purple, pink color. These are maps that haven't been filed yet, but we have them on record. I believe these would have passed ULURP, and this is one I'll live. Great. So that's not a complete data set, but that is something informational on there. Local law names is what I was telling you. These are all the streets that have like secondary, like local law names. Maybe not really useful for anything, but I think it's cool bit of trivia. Paper streets. There's not a ton of these in your district, but these are streets that were on the city map but never actually got built. So we're jump ahead for a second here. Let me turn off the adopted city map alterations. And so you see here between Reed, Elk, Duane, Broadway, there's this Republican alley that's mapped as a street. But if you come down under supporting layers and turn on aerial imagery, there's nothing actually there, right? There's a building sitting on top of it. But for some reason, that was never taken off the city map. So that is technically a street, even though it's a building. So a
Can we get
lot. I'm sorry?
Does it have like an address? Can we get mail there?
This, I don't think there would be any addresses mapped to it, but that would probably.
The USPS doesn't know about it.
Yes. But in the outer boroughs, especially, a lot of the city map change applications we get are situations like this, where there's like a paper street running through somebody's private property, but it's never been built, and it's a cloud on their property. They want to get rid of it. That's a lot of what we get in like the outer boroughs.
What's the name of that street?
It's a cloud.
Republican Alley, apparently.
Oh, we never made that.
And then we have some supporting layers for like actually, let's turn this back off and turn.
One second. So you said it was a cloud on properties to have a paper map? What is a cloud?
Well, yeah, like because like you can't build in the bed of a map street, so I don't know how this happened, but you're not supposed to be. And also streets don't generate FAR. So if that's there, even if they're not trying to like do a rezoning or build up more, if they just want to rearrange stuff that's on their property or whatever, having that paper street could be a thorn in their side, depending on what it is they want to do.
Yeah. But
Wow.
does it count? Like, does the space on it count? Like we could talk about it later.
But yeah, so if you want to, you can also
Can I park there?
put like zoning.
There's another paper street that is One Police Plaza.
right behind here. Yeah, so there's,
Oh,
yeah, see the one to the right
underneath.
of Republican Alley? Yeah,
This
that
one?
one. Yeah, it goes right over on the police plaza. Right? Yeah, there we go. How about that?
Oh, a new street. How creative. They did not put a lot of effort into that one.
But it's parking.
It's probably.
Um, right. So those are the major um interface options and toggles. There's also tax slots and flood insurance rate maps here. Um, so um yeah, so where's okay, so let's look here. This is right, okay, so we got Baxter, Hogan, then Baxter does this weird little thing here. So say you were curious about what's happened here, right? We see that there's a couple of maps on top of each other, right? Because it's not super light. So you can just click here, all right, and it will show you all of the adopted city map amendments based on their city planning number. The CP ones are the old style. This one here that has a MMM, that's the more recent ULERP number um, format that we use today. But you can click on any of these and it will open up. So let's look at the oldest one, which is from 1941. And you give it a second, and yeah. So you see a lot of these older ones have a lot of handwritten annotations and things, and they use color coding. Um, and the format of these has changed several times. So I'm going to open up a more recent one and do just a quick overview of how to look at one of these things. So let's look at this map change that happened in August 24th, 2007. All right. So it says map number 30219, the elimination, discontinuance, and closing or mapping of a portion of Baxter Street between Bayard Street and Hogan Place and the establishment of a park addition. So that tells you what you're looking for, and you see all this mess happening here. How do you know what's going on? The legends here, of course, very helpful, especially with parks because the line symbols for those are weird. But basically, these top couple of things are the main things that you're looking at when it's in terms of street. The kind of standard line, like you see, here, that is a street line that it says heretofore established, hereby retained. So it existed before, it's existing now. This map is not changing it. It's staying the same. So darker line is a new street line, a street line hereby established, and the dashed is hereby was heretofore established, hereby retained. Used to exist, now we're getting rid of it. So what does that practically mean? So if we look at this corner of Columbus Park, we see that it's kind of hard to see, but there's a dash line here, right? And it's next to this little X thing, which if you look at the legend means getting rid of a park line. So what they're saying here is that this here used to be the line between the street and the park. Now they're getting rid of that line, and this is this bold one here. That's the new line. So basically, Baxter Street used to do this, and now they've demapped this little bit here, and now it does this kind of wavy thing that you're familiar with. Whenever you see something underlined like this, that's something that's new. So Columbus Park Edition, that's new, so it's underlined. If you see something crossed out, intuitively that means that's being gotten rid of. Yeah, they should have all of that here to look at. Fun fact, did you know that Manhattan has its own north, as does Queens and the Bronx? Um,
Side?
why? I don't know. But True North is always True North. Manhattan North is
What?
as if Manhattan were actually straight up and like the avenues were actually directly north-south.
What's the angle difference to true north?
28 degrees, 59 minutes, 38.27 seconds.
So bad.
Yeah. Manhattan and Bronx North makes sense to me because it's based off the street grid. I have no idea where Queens North comes from. I need to ask somebody at Queens BP about that because I'm interested in that. Um, yeah. So she'll have a scale. Um, this here we in city planning fill out when the map gets filed and goes into effect. If this isn't filled out, that means it hasn't gone into effect. Yeah. So again, these take some practice to understand what's going on. Oh, also these light lines here, that's reference for those are called treatment lines. Here they're showing like the sidewalk. But these are illustrative, right? So like the sidewalk here, right? That's it within city right of way. If DOT wanted to widen this sidewalk, it's in public right of way, right? They don't have to do a city map change ULURP to do that. They can just, find the money and do it, right? And they don't have to change the map to show that. Now, these are just illustrative as to the condition at the time that the map was built or the map was written, excuse me. Um, so lastly, final section map, right? So looking at the dates here, the last alteration map was 2007. The section map says effective September 2nd, 2018. So in this case, this map will take all of this into account. But if this was effective something 2021, then this would be the thing to look at for the most recent, not this, because this would have been drawn after this. But in this case, section map is the most recent. If you open that up, so this is zoom out, please. Oh, I can't zoom out anymore. Interesting. All right. But this is section map for your part of this part of Manhattan. So it goes from Pearl Street and Center Street up to like Hester. So a little bit north. And this shows everything that was all the dimensions and stuff that were the case as of what was it, I already forgot, 2018. Should say somewhere. Yeah, May 10, 2016. I find these a little bit easier if the section map is the most recent thing. I find that the easiest thing to look at to get kind of the lay of the land because there's less stuff on it, right? It doesn't show old things being crossed out and whatever. It just shows here's what it looks like at the time of this map. Um, and you can see here it shows that little zigzag that was established in the alteration map that we just looked at. The last thing I wanted to show you real quick is just if you have a property that you're looking at, I don't know, let's just click here. It's 464 Pearl Street, why not? Beyond looking at all the maps and stuff, if you click down here where it says view this lot in Zola, this brings you to the zoning and land use map, which you can find a bunch of other information about the zoning, owner, the districts and, neighborhood information, total number of units, all this kind of good stuff. If that's relevant to you and anything that you're doing. So it's a nice link to kind of our other city planning stuff. I was asked in terms of ownership, is there a way to see under whose jurisdiction a street is? Because most of the time it's city DOT, right? But there are some things that are um, state DOT or something else. We don't have that in this website yet, but we do have the data, and we are, oh my goodness, excuse me, we are working on getting it incorporated into the next version. So that it will be something that you'll be able to look up eventually, but we don't have it front facing yet.
Do you have a
But,
target date?
I don't know, but I can ask the people who are working on it and see if they can enlighten me, and then I can enlighten you.
Perfect, thank you so much.
That's kind of the basic kind of speed run through this that I had. I don't know how much time you guys have. If you have any question, if there's any questions you want me to answer real quick, or if I can't answer, I will take them down and find somebody who can.
Carrie, you had a question.
Oh, I think I've answered it. I've been playing with this as you've been doing your demo. So the earliest dates that you guys have is the 19, your maps start in, hold on, 1903, right?
That's the earliest that we have on this slider, but as you can see, if you go back to 1903 to 1906, there's nothing actually there. I think it's probably gonna be let's see. Well, let's just do this.
I mean, we can talk.
Yeah, the 30s. Yeah, it'll be like the 30s because that's when city planning became the custodian of the city map. So stuff pre-30s, you may need to talk to the borough president's office.
Why don't you tell them what your point of interest was?
My point of interest is Duane Park. It's 141, anyway, block 141, lot 39. And it's a remnant, it was from the commissioner's plan in 1811, so it's
Okay.
really, really old. And we're trying to find the deed from Trinity Church to the city of New York as its first public park.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. So.
Yeah, that's
We don't have the annals, and so I understood that there was perhaps a link that you could find to ownership, and I was hoping to be able to trace that.
not.
I've spoken to Hector, so we're.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great tool. I enjoy playing with it. A lot of good information.
Thank you, Eric. What question?
Yes, the historical aerial maps, I used to find those quite fascinating. I recall it was 1924, 52, and then it jumped to 96 and then
Yes.
2012.
Yeah.
Are those still up there? And do you have something in between those decades?
24 and 51 are still here on this. I don't know. I feel like if we had anything between 51 and 96, it would be here, but I can check, but I imagine probably not. It's not on there.
It was fascinating to look at it, to see how the streets evolved. Yeah.
Yeah, Zola also jumps from 51 to 96. And I'm curious as to why there's that big gap. So I might just follow up on that also for my own interest.
Thank you.
What else? I'll see. Yeah.
Good. Any other question?
It's like Alice is raising their hand.
Yes, our vice chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Betty. And thanks, Abraham. Boy, am I fascinated by this. I'm like zipping around here to no avail. But I, like Carrie Davidson, Parker Davidson, have a real interest in another small park that I cannot even find when I put it in, which is a late name from the, I think, early 90s, called Barnett Newman Triangle. And I'm just wondering, just as a general point, are the pedestrian plazas and the green streets findable in this situation? And how does one go about that? I see Duane Park coming up as a park, but when I put in Barnett Newman or Yo-Yo's or other neighborhood small green streets, they're not coming up.
That's a good question. I am perhaps not, and I'm wondering if that's something that we could get in there because I feel like we should have a data set for that somewhere. For like green streets and like pops and things like that.
Particularly with the city's commitment to sort of green infrastructure and making a lot of this stuff resilient, and green streets are, you know, a terrific idea. It would
Yeah.
be nice to pursue them as reality in terms of, you know, actually places that are resilient and are part of green infrastructure planning. Anyway, I don't want to take the time here tonight necessarily, but I would love to follow up with you on that because
Absolutely.
and-
Yeah,
and-
I'll talk to people here about that. I'll let them know that you were interested in that and see if we have that or if that can get put on the agenda of stuff as we're adding stuff.
And just one other question, can we use this as for like do surveyors use these, I assume, for topographic surveying of areas of the city? I mean, we're looking to do this with Duane Park on a 0 budget, and would this be something that might appear if we can find it?
Yeah,
Where
if
we
you could
can
find
actually
it,
get
yeah, because
elevation points?
it'll have all the legal street grades on
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something that you could use to
This is
help that.
fantastic. Okay, thank you. And thanks, Betty. This is great. Thank you.
And maybe,
Yeah, is the data available as like a KML or a shapefile for a broader GIS?
There's a lot of stuff on open data. I will definitely check with our GIS guy on that.
Okay, cool.
As I imagine it might be brought off the top of my head. I'm not sure where, but I will ask for sure.
Cool.
yes,
Anyway,
Tammy, we have the seat one chair, Tammy.
Hi,
Question?
thanks so much. This was a great presentation, and I would echo what Alice has said. What I'd love to see included on there would be the green streets, and also how are the pedestrian plazas noted on these maps? So you can use Bogardus at the bottom end of Hudson as an example. I'm kind of wondering how, because they're still technically streets, they're just
Yeah, on alteration maps, yeah, it will typically just look be labeled as a street because they're usually in the map street and under DOT jurisdiction. So
so
if
I
there are
would tell,
treatment lines, it may show up as like an island or something. Where are we looking? I'm sorry.
look at the corner of Hudson and Chambers, the intersection there. That's where Bogardus Plaza is,
Chambers is down here.
and you see right where Hudson comes down on the diagonal and intersects into Chambers, right there. Yeah, there you go. That little triangle to the right there that you just.
Oh, this little dude.
Nope, go
Sorry.
east. That's okay. Go down Chambers east.
Oh, yeah.
Nope,
Well,
you gotta go east.
let me turn off this so it's easier to see.
One-
It's Greenwich.
Go east on Chambers.
Hudson. This.
Yeah, that triangle there. So
It's
that's
probably. Let's find out.
yeah.
Okay, so there's no alteration maps here, so let's add the section map.
Because that is now a pedestrian plaza and not a regular street, I'd love to see some kind of notification on the mapping system that would show that in a defined way. So
Mhm.
you could potentially take a look at the map and say, I'd like to see all pedestrian plazas in our community and be able to
Mhm.
see where they are. So you can kind of start to take a look on, because it does also reflect on circulation.
It's further
Yes.
south. So, yeah, if you take that map, go south. Yeah, so the triangle on the south part there.
Yeah.
That one, that's Bogardus. Duane is the triangle up
Yep.
into the left.
So if you see where
So-
between Chambers and Reed,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, it just shows up as an island.
which is not accurate any longer because that
Right.
entire area is a pedestrian plaza, so it's closed off. So it'd be interesting to be able to see if you can take a look to updating the maps in some way to denote that that is a pedestrian plaza.
And I'm sorry, what was the name of this again? This plaza?
Bogardus,
Cardis. Okay, between.
Bogardus, I believe. I'm happy to send you a link to all of the pedestrian plazas in Community Board 1. There's a
I mean,
lot-
go for it. Go
Tammy,
for it.
if I can just ask that we really pursue Barnett Newman, which is a pedestrian plaza which isn't yet finished, as beautifully as Bogardus. I'd love that to be our test case if possible.
Yeah, I'm asking him, Alice, to have them listed in the mapping.
Yeah, of
system.
course. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. That
That's
was what I
it.
mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Betty and I can send you the link. There's a link to all the pedestrian plazas in Manhattan that we have, and that'd be great to get them denoted on the map.
Yeah, I'll look into it. Thanks. If you send that to me, that would be helpful.
Be happy to.
Going back to Carrie has another question.
I was just gonna say that, I was on the board of Bogardus when we did that project. The street was not demapped, so it's probably not indicated because the process for demapping it it isn't, as I understand it, isn't necessarily automatically part of the
Correct.
pedestrian plus
Right.
process.
Correct. But
So-
as long as we're doing map layovers, then it should have a temporary map layover for where the pedestrian plazas are in the city. Because this is a program. So yeah, I definitely agree. We did not want to demap it at the time. But even so, the system doesn't appear accurate if you can't reflect the pedestrianization of the plaza, of the street.
Next, Gotham Park will be the same way.
Exactly.
So will every open street, so
Yes and no. I mean, pedestrian plazas are something that's really full term. Open streets are a yearly thing, and you're not changing the infrastructure of the street necessarily like you do on pedestrian plazas.
Well, thank you. I guess that's all the questions, although I know there's more, so it'll probably be an invitation to coffee sometime. You may win the best speaker award.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for having me. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, looking forward to that link for the pedestrian plazas. I was taking notes on the questions you guys were asking, so I will follow up with people on our end about that, and if I find out anything, I will let you guys know. And yeah, if you have any questions about this app or city map stuff in general, you know, you'll have my email, you know where to find me, and I will send you the little mini PowerPoint too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
You too. Yeah, I hope you'll be fascinated by the map. Okay, we can move on to item number 2. I want to keep. We had a long night last night, so I'm trying to make this one move a little smoother as well as for the next set of speakers. And this one is going to be a real different one. Can you go to the next? Yeah, thank you. This is a revocable consent request. And so placing permanent anchors and covers on the sidewalk surrounding 125 Maiden Lane. It is a commercial condo building. It is a full city block. And they are dealing with the fact that they are in a flood zone and they don't like it and want to protect their building, which is a city block. And Mr. Rittenberg and Mr. Montagorgo, I'm gonna have to introduce themselves to get their names right. Is that
Hello.
Good evening.
great? If you both introduce yourselves and feel free to start. Let us know, are you going to share your screens or do you want Zach to show something for you?
I have the slides. Oh, either way though. Up to you guys.
Okay, I'm Andrew Panacorvo, Muser Rutledge Consulting Engineers. We're working with Bruce and Time Equities to prepare flood protection for 125 Maiden Lane in compliance with Building Code Appendix G. So we're protecting the property in the event of another flood inundation as we occurred during Hurricane Sandy.
Do you want me to share?
Yep, you can share up the slides. So
Let Andrew walk. Let's let Andrew walk through the slides to give you an idea of what we're doing there, what we're doing, what we intend to do there, and then we can try to address any of your guys' concerns.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Close.
Okay, so the property occupy 125 Maiden Lane occupies the entire block between Maiden Lane and Fletcher Street, Pearl Street, and Water Street. And what we see here is existing street features, light posts, Con Edison vaults, ramps, and the corner skid protection that the DOT has installed for accessibility. And the red dots are the changes that we're proposing. And the scale is not true on the red dot. It's enlarged for this full city block. But each of those red dots are a single connector or a bolt connection between the sidewalk and our flood protection, and that is the permanent component we are seeking revocable consent for. The temporary component is a flood panel that attaches to that in the event that a state of emergency is declared and the building is evacuated and Lower Manhattan is evacuated because floodwaters are anticipated. Next slide, please. So here's an example of what these things look like. This is a photograph I took, and this is on the corner of Pearl and Maiden Lane. So this is directly across the street from our property at the adjacent building. And if you didn't know what you were looking for, or if you saw them, you would assume that there's a coin sitting on the sidewalk because that's about the size they are. They're probably more like a nickel than a quarter, but they're just a metal disc flush with the surface of the sidewalk. Next slide, please. And you can see here again, there's three more on the left. There's actually a whole line of them that are not identified, but you can see on the lowest one how there's some kind of fastener attachment there that you could get a tool into and open this up. And what remains is a socket that's embedded in the concrete. And when we come along with the flood protection, that's there and available for us to connect to. Next slide. The flood protection arrives on a truck from its storage facility. So
Actually,
it's in those,
so actually, for our purposes, the equipment is actually going to be stored on premise.
okay, stored on site. So it's in the building inside the pallet. The pallets are inside the building, and the pallets are moved into position, and the pallets opened up, and you can see that there's a stack of panels sitting there waiting to be deployed. And then on the right-hand side, there was a test deployment that we made just to see how things would fit up, especially around things like fire hydrants. The corner ramps were a big concern. So this is just what the panel looks like in its unfolded position, ready for deployment. It's not connected to the sidewalk here. You can see there's a gap between the edge of the panel and the sidewalk. The requirement for this to function is that it's connected to the sidewalk where the man in the yellow vest is standing. When the water load goes on the flat part onto the sidewalk, that's the initial stabilization of this. And once it's stabilized, the vertical section acts as a dam, resisting the water pressure that would try and get through and into the building. I think that's the last slide I was presenting. So that's what we're interested in having these fasteners and available. You saw how big the building was. It's a full city block. So we're requesting that these be installed so they're available to us in the event of a deployment. And in normal conditions, the intention is for these available fasteners to be completely unobtrusive. And unless you know where to look for them, you wouldn't find them. So I was actually downtown today at 40 Fulton Street. And when I walked out of the building, I said, oh, look, fasteners. So if you know what to look for, you can find them downtown.
So that you found them in another location.
Say again?
You found them in another location.
On the web,
Around 40 Fulton.
yeah, around 40 Fulton has some flood protection system that incorporates a fastener in the sidewalk. And whatever it was, I don't know what their system is. I'm not involved in that project, but I walked by there today and I saw them.
Yeah, well, that's, no, I believe that's interesting. I'll go look. But we haven't, this is the first time anything like this has come before my committee, so.
No.
And some of the questions we're asking.
We just love to be the guinea pig.
Okay. But I was looking at some of the drawings, and in fact, on two of the streets, there's really no room on the sidewalk once these protectors are up. Now, two of them, there's maybe up to 4 feet that'll be available between the road and the protector, which is not very much space. But I looked at the pedestrian ramps because I rely on them, and there's no landing whatsoever that's available. Is that correct?
That is correct. Along Fletcher Street, it's a very narrow sidewalk and we need the full sidewalk width to accommodate this. So we're not allowed by the status we're in right now is we've got the DOT's permission after receiving FDNY's permission after receiving DOB's permission, et cetera. So now we're before the community board here. So the only time we are allowed to deploy is if a state of emergency is declared. And if a state of an emergency is declared, it basically means they're evacuating Lower Manhattan or directing residents to evacuate Lower Manhattan. The building 125 Maiden Lane would be unoccupied. I didn't share another drawing that we have prepared that is part of the DOT set. There's a maintenance and protection of traffic. In this instance, it is the pedestrian traffic that is maintained, and pedestrians are directed to the alternate side of Fletcher Street, the north side of Fletcher, the west side of Pearl, and the east side of Water. So there is a requirement to install signage with this deployment that directs the pedestrians about where they go, similar to, you know, when there's a construction site and there's an alternate pedestrian passageway. It's similar to that, and that's part of the DOT set. So that's an obligation under the DOT permitting to provide alternate routes.
Could we get a copy of that?
Certainly. Do you have the full, do you guys have the full DOT application set?
I only have these drawings are really all I have.
I'm looking at Fletcher Street. The other side of Fletcher Street is closed for construction.
At the present time.
Yeah, right now it's.
Betty, I'll check if we can share it with you, but it is, their MPT is still being reviewed by DOT. Their,
This was not finalized yet.
as far as I'm aware, we're reviewing it.
Okay, just, you know, Kate, if you want to introduce yourself.
Pardon me.
you are.
Hi,
We've completed phase 1 of the DOT revocable consent process. You're phase 2.
so I'm from the Manhattan Borough Commissioner's Office at DOT. Just sharing that our Office of Construction Mitigation and Coordination is currently reviewing the MPT.
Yeah, I wanted you to know who was in the room who's answering some of the questions that I asked,
Understood.
but thank you.
How quickly are these things put up and taken down?
So deployment could take 10 to 12 hours. You know, upon notification of evacuation of Lower Manhattan or evacuation of zone, we're in zone 1. So we're in the, you know, highest risk area. So we anticipate 10 to 12 hours to deploy and about 8 hours to remove.
What is the reason for, what is the trigger to have it removed?
Flooding.
When the city deems the areas downtown safe and essential personnel can return to the buildings.
Okay, again, so another of the city announcements.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
How high up do the anchors come when you are deploying the panels? Like how tall are they?
The panels?
The
Panels?
anchors?
Can you go back to the photograph of the
Oh,
deployment? I think it's
They
the
just
last
hang
slide.
around, you mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, you said they were flush and they're there all the time.
So there is a anchor. So this is the permanent condition. There's an anchor sleeve with a cap on it, and the cap is a screwed in cap. So it's mechanically connected to the sleeve that's in the sidewalk. When the panel is deployed, you can see that there are both cables, struts, and there is a screw that goes through the metal edge of the panel into the sleeve in the sidewalk, which is a receptacle. So how high does it stick up? It sticks up at the metal edge that we see that's closest to the curb. It sticks up several inches, but the cables and the struts would prevent passageway. You can't walk over the panel when it's deployed.
Betty?
Yeah, please, Eric.
Yeah, I've seen that at Fulton Street, 40 Fulton Street, and it looks the same. You know, I don't know the models, but it looks exactly the same.
You've
So,
seen it deployed?
yeah, they put them up. I've seen it, it looks just like it.
Right.
And,
So,
but my question is, what are you gonna do for the manholes? Aren't there some manholes on this, on the sidewalk?
correct, yes. So if we could go back to the first slide. Oh, sorry, the plan slide. So it's not really evident at this scale, but actually, if you go to the second slide, second photo slide, sorry. So here you have some kind of existing, I think this is a catch basin cover in the sidewalk. And the solution here was to put a connector directly adjacent to one side. I can't see in the photograph if there's another on the other, but I assume that there is. So the Aquafence panel would span over any metal obstruction like a manhole cover, or in this instance, a catch basin clean out. So the design of the flood protection, the Aquafence, which is the product name, would have accounted for this. And in our design, I don't think we have any manholes directly in the path of our connectors. I think we have successfully avoided those. The biggest issue we had in terms of this type of engineering was as directed by the DOT to avoid their skid ramps or their skid pads in the ramps. So there's requirements by the DOT that you can't put anything permanent, any fasteners of any kind into the skid mats and the ramps, and we have accommodated that with our design. So you can span over anything that's an obstruction.
Do you worry about water coming up from the manhole?
That is a concern. So for us, for 125 Maiden Lane, there's other components to their flood protection that include sealing off of the annulus around things like the cable TV and the fiber optic and the plumbing connection. So those were all a pipe in a sleeve through the foundation. So there was a ring or an annulus around the service pipe. And we went back and surveyed the basement and identified those conditions and gave instructions about how to seal those. So that is always a concern when you're dealing with flood protection, is what's the method of bypassing your line of protection. So we're in touch with Con Edison on this project, other utility providers, as I said, Verizon, to make sure that all of those openings are sealed and secured. Our ventilation is all behind the flood protection, so there's no ventilation system, fresh air intake or similar. There's none of that outside the flood protection, so we don't have any ductwork that's a problem. And what was the last thing? Backflow preventer. The sewer connection has a backflow preventer, so we've gone to great lengths to try and resolve and mitigate backdoor flooding.
Not to mention, we've also installed a generator, a gas generator in the building, so we can support life safety and our pumps during the course of any power outages in New York City, in Lower Manhattan, like we had when it was affected by Superstorm Sandy. So we've taken a lot of precautions. We've actually even moved up equipment out of the basement that was flooded during Superstorm Sandy that basically made the building inactive for about 9 months. So we've taken a lot of steps here. And this is just redundancy to protect the ownership of the condominium.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of work. My one question, how close are these panels, the vertical portion, to the building?
They're flush to the building.
Okay, so there can't be any collection of water between them and the building?
Correct. Well, yeah, so that's the whole thing, is to keep the water away from the building.
Oh, yeah, no. Understood.
Sorry.
I did, but it may be a silly question. I'm just trying to really fully understand how these panels work and lock up and are linked.
Each other?
Their website is really good. You should check out the website. It's like,
Check out the website because, yeah, it's just fascinating to me. How old is this engineering or this invention?
15 years.
50? Okay.
We purchased the panels about 4 years ago.
You have a committee member here who's very interested in your website and all the things you put on it.
It's pretty cool. They did a good job.
That's good.
Yeah, Brendan?
Last two questions, quick. How far away are the anchors from each other, distance wise? And then, what does construction to install those look like? So how much disruption to the, pedestrians and people in the building will happen?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So two questions. Go ahead. The spacing of the anchors, anchor to anchor, and then the when is the construction going to occur? Was that what you asked?
Or what's the disruption? So how long, are you closing off the entire sidewalk to install them? And how long would that take?
So the anchors are 15 to 20 inches apart. And Bruce, the intention is to self-perform this. You're not hiring a sub to do it. So you would do this sequentially in terms of this.
We'd have to do staggered deployments. They would be done on the weekend, where the area is probably least affected by pedestrian traffic. And we have to coordinate. We would coordinate with a GC to do all the anchor installation.
Okay.
Mind you that you need about, we need it, the deployment is done by staff and outside staff that are on Time Equity's payroll. We would guess we have about 8 to 10 people doing this work.
Over the course of a month, 2 months?
How long would it take to get all the anchors in, Bruce? I think that's what the
I was
question
thinking we
is.
probably can do it over 2 weekends.
Cool. Thank you.
Very efficient.
The anchors are easy to install. Once we get them deployed, we would just mark the sidewalk and then do the anchors after all the sidewalks marked in those locations. They want to be done when the panels are up. We want to get the panels up and down as quickly as possible.
We appreciate it. Is there any hands up online? I can't see.
Hi, Betty. I do have my hand up. It's Alice. Thanks again. Another great presentation, incredibly helpful. I just wanted to mention to everybody on the committee that we will be having at the Environmental Protection Committee meeting an entire meeting on flood barriers given by the Battery Park City Authority. And we have had an earlier meeting, which I would have to dredge up and send around to all, about the aqua fence, which is actually in the picture on the left. So, and some of these deployables early on after Sandy. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that there'll be more on this more generally to follow soon, I hope. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Well, if there are no other hands up, what do people think? Want to be in support?
Yeah,
sure. Okay, so everything is unanimous. We will take a vote just to confirm it, but this is already just confirming that we support their application to the DOT.
There's no resources, can't do that to Sure.
Hey, Betty, I have one question for the applicant. In your pedestrian rerouting for when this is up, can you confirm that there are curb cuts on the entire path of the rerouting?
I would have to research that question from the perspective of, I don't know. I know opposite to us on Pearl, there is a curb cut because that's the picture that I showed you. But the other corresponding corners like Fletcher and Water Street is a super wide street. So I don't know what goes on the other side of Water Street. I would have to look at it and answer that question.
But on Water Street, I think the panels don't encompass the entire sidewalk.
That's correct.
Kind of here's where I'm going with this, and I'd want it in the resolution. It's an incumbent on both the TOT and applicant to ensure that there's the maximum amount of accessibility. And certainly in times of emergency, it's critical, having lived through all of the ones that you're talking about here. And thinking about people who have accessibility concerns and people in strollers, because if you are leaving, strollers you're definitely got that if you got little kids with you. So I would ask that there is an assurance that somehow, somewhere, the pedestrian plan, wherever your rerouting and detours are, that every single one of the detours include a curb cut.
Okay.
So,
I'm right now looking at Google,
oh,
which is the greatest thing ever for virtual. So Water Street does include a curb cut. The opposite side of Broad includes a curb cut. And then at Pearl and Maiden, curb cuts on all four corners. And at Fletcher and Pearl, there's on Fletcher and Pearl, there's a curb cut. There's a car parked in front of Pearl, but that's not a crosswalk. I don't think that's a crosswalk. It's a continuous curb because there's a parking garage entrance at, I don't see the address, but in any case, so all corners where there is an opposing street corner all have curb cuts and skid ramps included. The only one I can't specifically see is the continuation of Pearl Street, but there is a parking garage there with its own curb cut.
Yes, may I have an alternate option, please? Since we've had many issues about pedestrian priority in FIDI anyway, and because they've already identified, they've found the same installations on Fulton Street, I expect other buildings to say, we better protect ourselves. So I don't want to go chasing from one building to another and each looking to where the streets, because they don't control them, or the sidewalks. And there are a lot of pedestrian ramps that aren't there. So what I was going to propose was be it further resolved that since the financial district is challenged by flood risk that warrants mitigation measures, but also narrows sidewalks on streets that are classified as international and regional corridors based on the DOT's pedestrian use demand. WEED CB1 implores the DOT to develop and implement a plan for FIDI that prioritizes pedestrians and recognizes the need for more shared street space, at least during these emergency periods. More safe, accessible space for pedestrian mobility during all weather conditions is needed.
What does that mean? What is the ask? What is the detail of the ask?
If you look at what, for instance, you're looking at sidewalks only. Why not mark our part of the street? Or why not make some of the streets under these emergency conditions be shared streets? Saying that pedestrians have to go somewhere, and what if every building puts up protectors? Because it's gonna be a long time before the Seaport FIDI project is completed. So why look at a more, ask the DOT from a holistic plan, what can the pedestrians do and know they need to do without a lot of signage during these episodes? With all these deployments that shut down all these sidewalks.
So how does that work then? If all of the buildings have deployables, that means all the sidewalks are occupied, potentially. So the curb cuts become useless.
Well, they're-
Everybody's gonna be in the street because they need to be, but so are cars. Because people will jump in their cars.
And bikes and everybody
And
else.
bikes and everything else, right? So
Buses and trucks, because people will need to, right.
Maybe we
Right,
should
so-
emergency management.
I'm not sure how it works. I'm not sure how it works generally, but I'm not sure how we're solving the problem.
This isn't solving it, this is recognizing a problem and asking for a fix. And so the question was, given these problems, we have this climate change, we have this condition of flooding. We know people are looking to protect their buildings, makes sense. Why not have a more unified plan, and with a FIDI where there isn't adequate sidewalk space anyway? Why not have a condition, a plan for these episodes that probably are gonna have to utilize the street? Make it more finite, rather than worrying about street by street and saying, you're shutting down these sidewalks, tell us what other sidewalks we can use with curb cuts. Well, what if they shut down?
Right, so for example, if we're imploring DOT to say that, Pearl evacuates, this direction and is available to pedestrians, and this street is available to cars, and this,
So whatever
that,
it is,
like that's
shared street.
well, whatever it is, but that's the kind of thing you're
Right.
envisioning.
The plan, a more area-wide plan, because it's not gonna affect one block and not the next.
Right, the evacuation routes, if you will, by mobility type.
Yes.
Right.
Wouldn't this be like an evacuation plan with NYPD as well?
Yeah, this is,
Fire department, yeah. please.
Fire department?
it sounds like a quality of life thing.
And just the
It's
other.
like quality of life, and it sounds like OEM. It's a conversation to be had with OEM, which brings everybody in.
And you don't want to do it at the junction of having this particular request.
It's
Well,
also
not-
a conversation that's had a bit of play, just to say, with the Downtown Alliance, which has Jeff generally been pretty helpful early on about these questions, because they were dealing building to building with each owner. I don't know where that began and ended. Well, I know where it began. I don't know where it's ended at this point, but I just would have them enter into the conversation as well as you develop the final, resolution, if you're going to go for the bigger picture. Yeah.
I think, Betty, your point is well taken, and I think it's a definite whereas, but I don't think it belongs in the therefore be it resolved for this application for this applicant. I think it belongs in a whereas as a concern that we raise, because it's beyond the application itself. It's a larger picture. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's what it carefully says, that this is a region, this is a neighborhood-wide issue. We can't put the burden on a building, they don't have the authority to do it, and, why do it, why, they don't want to be burdened with it either. But they do point out a problem, as more buildings are gonna get smart and do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how many buildings have this, because I know 17th State Street also has this technology, and it worked during Hurricane Sandy. Because they had deployed them.
We'll have to find, would DOT know, well, they should know who has it.
I can, we have a list.
Okay, I think they must have, they've also had to get,
I know this isn't the
Is-
first
since
time we've given those refunds, but I don't know how many and for what.
okay, yeah, if I said it would have to go back to, DOT has to be involved because they have the streets in the road. But your point's well taken, put it as a whereas, you want to agree with that, put it as a whereas, leave it out, make, therefore be resolved will be the one, and that is just support for the plan, which is the installation of the bolts and covers.
Yeah, I think we're ready to call a question.
Second.
Yes,
Second.
Third.
that, you want-
Fourth.
I know you're ready to get the count,
Yeah.
okay.
Uh,
We'll make an affirmation. All those opposed? None? Do we have anybody who's recused? Anybody who abstains? It's unanimous, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Flooding.
Actually, I look forward to.
I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't looked that hard, but it's pretty cool.
That,
Especially the climate
I know, they don't do it here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, committee board. Appreciate your time making this go smoothly for both myself and Andrew, because it's been 2 years to get to this point, and we appreciate it.
Very well, good luck.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And stuff, and I'm
And
scared.
next up is,
Okay. Suggestion person.
For
information coming out, there is a weird quirk that is gonna affect our district. So we want to bring it up and see if we want to say anything about it. Andy's back. Here is the FAQ on the MTA website. And if you notice there, at the end, there is an interesting statement about drivers who will be coming over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Could you just make the print the drop bigger if possible?
I'll explain it.
Okay, thank you.
So, come,
I'll listen to him.
it's short.
So it's short. It's a little weird, but it's short. This deals with drivers coming over the Brooklyn Bridge and going to the FDR Drive. Sorry, I lost my voice yesterday. Yeah, southbound. So if you go northbound, you can get directly onto the FDR from the bridge. You will not be charged. But if you go southbound, because you have to touch Pearl Street, the MTA has said you will be charged if you take the Brooklyn Bridge and go straight onto the FDR southbound. To give you some detail, this is coming off the Brooklyn Bridge. You wrap around. You have the option to go right or left. If you go right, that'll take you straight onto the FDR northbound entrance. No charge there because the FDR is an exempt road. If you take the left ramp to go southbound, this is where you end up. You'll see you cross Pearl Street for about 80 feet, I believe. And the MTA has said you will be charged for that. There's some potential problems that people have brought up with this. One is it could encourage toll shopping. You can imagine someone who's coming off the Brooklyn Bridge and wants to go all the way up to the George Washington Bridge. That person would otherwise be incentivized to take the FDR Drive because they'd avoid the toll. But now they might say, oh, I'm gonna be charged anyway, maybe I'll cut across, go on the street grid. Possibility. There's also the possibility that people might choose to take the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel instead of the Brooklyn Bridge. And then there's just the fairness question because the FDR, we were told, was gonna be exempt. And it's kind of arbitrary to distinguish based on north and southbound. So let's open it up.
Why is it an issue that a driver might want to take the battery tunnel instead of the bridge? Like, why would that be a problem for us?
It isn't, and the MTA says that.
Yeah, the MTA is telling me it wouldn't be a
That
problem.
is their preferred way.
It's just not a potential issues slide. so I don't know.
Yeah, like,
It's total shopping issue.
Well, it's not about toll, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not.
theoretically, someone would, you could go through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, pay less money. I think the toll is what, $6 or something?
6:15 or something, yeah.
And you can get directly onto West Street without having to pay, whereas if you took the Brooklyn Bridge, now you,
Don't we want fewer people on the Brooklyn Bridge? Isn't that a good thing?
Well, I was gonna say, I thought about what do we have to gain by, what do we as a district have to gain by doing this? How many people from our district would this affect? Really none. Because they'd either be coming out of our district, coming back to our district. This is a condition where people want to completely avoid the district. So there's no value to us as a district. There are some real big negatives. And I'm very surprised, Eric, you haven't said anything. You talked to me about this very intersection. It has a tremendous number of injuries and accidents.
It's
A
scary.
lot of it is very
I
scary.
used to ride my motorcycle there.
There are a lot of crashes there. There are no sidewalks for people with, like me, to go on. It's very unsafe, which is why there are so many crashes and injuries. One of the corners, yes.
Don't forget this intersection very specifically is also part of the Chinatown Connection study. Part and parcel to the issues of how complicated and how many injuries there are there.
Yeah, as I said, there are a lot of injuries there. And keep in mind, CB3, one of the corners actually belongs to the other district. 3 of them are in our district. One corner, the northeast one, is actually in CB3's district. So you really should involve them anyway if you were going to do something like that. Also, Gotham Park, that I told Rosa I would speak up for her. Their extension that they're asking the DOT for, the mayor for, would take them up this portion along here, and they don't really want more cars to be encouraged to come this way, which will completely interfere with the activities going on with Gotham Park, which is right along the Brooklyn Bridge there. And other people who, during the FIDI Seaport resiliency projects that, along with the mayor, borough commission, I'm sorry, Mark Levine upstairs.
Manhattan Borough President.
Thank you. We talked about taking down the southern portion of the FDR. If so, why are we encouraging more people to go that route? And to utilize the ramps that we'd like to have taken down and interfere with Gotham Park and go through these really injury intersections where there are a lot of car accidents with cyclists, pedestrians, everybody.
This is part of the section he wants to take down, that people would be charged for.
The part, no, it's the part that they'd be coming off.
They're not nowhere safe to go.
We know it's southbound to go because that's what will be taken down, south of the Brooklyn Bridge.
I don't understand this, pardon not. I was listening, but I don't understand this issue.
What?
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any foot,
So, back up. So, say you're coming from Brooklyn, right? And you want to go to the George Washington Bridge. We know the FDR, the underpass, and West Street are exempt, right? So theoretically, what people thought was, you come over the Brooklyn Bridge, you get right on the FDR, you go around all the way up, and you won't be charged. But what the MTA said is that this particular southbound FDR entrance coming off the Brooklyn Bridge, because you have to touch Pearl Street technically to get there, you're touching the central business district and you therefore will toll it.
So when you get, I live near here, so I use it all the time, actually. So I get off here and that would, I would expect to incur a charge right here. So what's the?
Because you're going straight from the Brooklyn Bridge and
He's
you're going.
concerned about
straight
people who
on
are
to-
going to our district.
it's an unfair bureaucratic snafu because of the 80 feet gap.
Actually, it's not, it's actually to our advantage as a district.
Oh,
It is potentially to our.
can I say something, just?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we have to think about how these things affect 8 million people. I mean, it's not, some things are just specific to the 4 corners of our district. And sometimes we opine on things that affect other people that we have to consider. That it's, like I said, it's not, I mean, I wish there's things that we can do, other traffic mitigating things to reduce accidents in many areas. But I have no personal stake in this. It's not something that but I'm just saying, if there's like millions of people coming and there's there's just like a, because you're touching that, but that's not the spirit of the congestion pricing rule. I think we have to think outside of our own, I'm not saying this to anybody personally, but our own selfish district, thing, because certain things affect lots of other people that sometimes we lose track of. And so I would, I think the unfairness of the north-south bureaucratic thing, I think should be rectified, but I'm just one person.
So I don't understand. So you're saying that it shouldn't be a free pass to go to the FDR northbound?
No,
When you're on the,
Well-
well, nothing's decided.
nothing's
right?
decided yet. No, we're
Can
just
I-
discussing this. But people have raised concerns about the fact that if you're going northbound, you won't be charged, but if you're going southbound, you will. And that's not.
Can I jump in here?
By the direction.
Well,
Yes,
that's
Mary, go ahead.
it's confusing.
So, Eric, one of the reasons why I'm jumping in is we don't want them charged. We want them, if you're going to come off the Brooklyn Bridge, we want you to go on the FDR southbound because we don't want them on Pearl Street. You don't want the extra traffic. If you're going to be charged, you might as well then just proceed down Pearl and go through the neighborhood
He wants to go through the neighborhood.
versus getting on the FDR to go around the bottom. We want them to stay and go on the FDR to loop around the bottom. We don't want them on the local streets, which is why you want to fix the connection from the bottom of the Brooklyn Bridge for anybody that's going to go southbound to get to West Street, just to be able to not go on the local streets and add more on the local streets. I don't see why we wouldn't encourage that.
Well, that's the point of disagreement that we have, and it's a complete disagreement.
So I'm trying to figure out like, are you, so coming off of Brooklyn Bridge, how
You go 80 feet on city streets.
80 feet?
Just this portion.
This-
If they
Because
were
it
building up the roads
empties
today,
out
It
here.
would probably be rectified where there would be like ramps north and south. But because it was built before congestion pricing was even in anybody's thoughts, like 100 years ago, so now there's a bureaucratic snafu. I mean, it just seems common decency.
It seems like state law.
I'm not worried about decency. I'm worried about having the cars that come through say, well, hell, if I'm going to be charged the money anyway, I might as well just take Pearl Street here and putting more and more
Isn't it-
cars down Pearl and Water. Why not?
Street. I just, it's honestly like not a fun thing to do, to drive on Pearl Street. Like, I don't know why it would be encouraged somehow. Like, it'll take
It would be
longer
an option where
to
otherwise.
be on Pearl Street than it would be to just get on South
Which is-
FDR.
But it's not just about ease, it's about cost. And that's what we're saying is,
Exactly.
because plenty of people will take Pearl Street to save the $6,
15.
$15.
How would it,
Well, that's
how are you saved? If you're exiting off of the Brooklyn Bridge, trying to go south on the FBR, you're not saving money, you're getting charged.
That is true.
Because then you can get directly to where you need to go by taking the city streets versus
Right.
going on and off of the highway,
You,
going all the way up to
you
come
would,
down.
you would only get charged once anyway, so you would get charged, and then it's like with the rest of the day, you've already been charged your $15, so you can drive on the streets, whatever. But like,
But Mimi, that's my point, is the people who are not necessarily staying in if you're going to be charged anyway, then you can either go through the congestion zone or not. But if you're not intending to be in the zone, I don't want to encourage any more traffic to go by the local schools and playgrounds and things like that. The goal was to get the traffic off the local streets, which means you want to incentivize the people to get on the FDR Drive southbound.
I just don't know why anybody would drive through to get to,
That you can
like,
imagine.
like the little streets aren't like great to drive through to get, they're not through streets, they don't.
Right.
There are times where the traffic coming out of the underpass is like horrible. And you can imagine Google Maps telling you to Pearl Street, Water Street, cut across all the way to Chambers.
That's true. We also need to talk to Google.
Straight to West.
Yes, we do. Well, Google tells you to do all kinds of dumb stuff, and they're like, the street's closed, you just can't go there. Or they're like walked into the park, and you're like 5 miles from it.
I
Drive.
think this is gonna be a split vote, but I'm a fan of making like that free as well.
80 feet free zone.
Mhm.
80 foot. free.
I think it really will harm our district, and I see no reason to have even more crashes where we already have too many. We already have 3 police stations
Betty.
to try to control the traffic. To have Gotham, that I was speaking on behalf of Rosa and some of that perspective as well, and
I would want to deter that as being a point of entry. I don't know the best way to deter that as a point of entry. Is it to charge for it and deter, or or to not charge and get people, I don't
The
know.
thing is that if the MTA is right, what they told us is they don't believe it will create a toll shopping. So if that's the case, then it wouldn't create a difference, right? Because if there's no,
Well, they said that a driver, instead of going FDR South, would be incentivized to go through the tunnel instead. So it would reroute traffic
Right.
from going through this cross and would then drive instead down, like if they're on the BQE, continue down BQE and then go through the tunnel and then go up the west side north.
Right.
So it would potentially divert people from making this cross.
I also think that if we're talking about, the numbers, you're gonna be incentivized to take the tunnel and get onto a 4-lane highway than you are to go through Pearl Street and Reed, like to cut through that way. So, yeah, I'm in favor of making it a disincentive to use
Leave it alone.
Pearl Street. Leave it alone.
But at the same time, if that loop through the tunnel is so backed up, then there could, they could. decide-
Right, so which is gonna be more backed up, the 2-lane exit off the Brooklyn Bridge or the 4-lane?
I would just
Pass
take
through on the tunnel.
Chambers. I would be like, whatever, I'm just gonna skip all that, take Chambers and then get on the highway going north.
I think
Right.
Because you're gonna pay for it anyway, so I do believe that might be right,
people will just decide to go straight across the Brooklyn Bridge and down Chambers Street.
and then cut across.
Right.
They're gonna be paying. So that's the problem.
which is gonna add more traffic to Chamber Street.
Yeah, Chambers is already a nightmare.
I mean,
I look at it this way. The goal of congestion pricing was to keep traffic off the streets, the local streets. If we want to keep the through traffic off the local streets, that's what the FDR Drive southbound is supposed to be for. And so you don't want to charge the people for the connecting. You want to, for gosh sakes, they have to figure out a way if you get off of point B and you go there that they're not charged. It just,
I think with the existing algorithm they're using, when we're talking about this, they could easily exempt these people, it would be no problem. I don't think that's an issue.
Well, then why don't they need more readers? The state law says they can't.
because they want as much money as they can.
Exactly.
Touch
Street.
Oh, they're like, this is the one place with the technicality, let's.
No, it's more than one. It's
Oh,
more.
really? This is just.
Yeah, there's one.
Grace Lee said last night that they know of this and they're looking at ways to fix it. So I don't see that it would be a bad thing, no matter what the state law is, for them to fix the technicality in this.
Do anything they want.
So ridiculous.
Correctly.
Which the motion would have to be, what would have to be.
We are ready.
We could just
Yeah.
not say anything about it. and-
Right,
That's what I
are
would
we
go
looking for a resolution on this, or is this just a discussion point?
It's a fun chat.
So it is a fun. Thank you.
I despise congestion pricing, but I just think we should leave it alone. I mean, it's all flawed.
I agree.
Chambers.
I agree.
I don't. I think that we should do something because I don't want any more cars to be on Pearl or on Chambers than we need. And I think
After the-
When I go on the fair specifically.
So
Isn't it a roll of the dice? Because MTA is saying one thing, which makes perfect sense to me. As someone who comes from Brooklyn with a friend who has a car, through the tunnel,
It's not against the law.
But the point is it's the fastest way along the highway, to the tunnel and up to the George Washington Bridge. So, but at the same time, what people are saying as far as will it be to people once they pay the toll, just screw it, I'm just gonna go across Chambers, I'm curious to look at current traffic patterns, as far as, do people prefer using Chambers versus, using the tunnel? I don't know.
It depends on the day of the
A
week.
lot of people use Chambers right now.
They do.
that's what we're trying to stop.
Right.
I mean, basically the spirit of was supposed to be the FDR Drive to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
And there's just an unfair anomaly for 80 feet. And whatever, I mean, that was the spirit of the rule, you know, and
But there's still an option that lives by the spirit that you're claiming.
But I,
Is it,
but
is,
the-
is this
if
foreclosed
you
to
have
us to
personal-
revisit? Like, isn't it possible that we leave it alone, as Eric says, and then we,
Sure.
when it becomes an issue, we ask MTA to come in, show us the traffic study, show us the detail, and ask that they revisit?
Can we ask
And our
to
electeds who are looking
speak
at
to
it.
Google about how they're directing traffic?
And-
Because like Emily rented a truck and took it on the Taconic, and she was like, I didn't know how else to get it anywhere. And I was like, but you're not supposed to be on a parkway in a truck, like a box truck. And she was like, well, I can't get my map to tell me any other way to get anywhere.
she would have,
She got pulled over, thank God.
Mimi,
And it,
Mimi.
anyway, the point of the story is that
Mimi,
like.
she
you
had to
should
have
probably
told,
talk to-
Mimi, she had to have told Waze that she was in a commercial truck. Because Waze or
She wasn't
Google,
using Waze. Yeah.
Waze and Google are the same. If you tell them you're in a commercial vehicle versus a regular vehicle, you have to let them know that's a user. Sorry,
Yeah.
I know that.
But yeah, I know it's Emily's fault, but still, the point is that like people
Don't throw it.
try to drive the way that the internet tells them to. If it continues to redirect them to go what might be a faster way because nobody else is going that way across Chambers, then, you know, because I was told to go across Chambers like a bunch of times after I was getting off of the West Side Highway to get to Brooklyn. To get to the Brooklyn Bridge.
I say leave this alone until 6 months in, or, you know, until we have some data as far as the amount of traffic it actually leads to, as far as if it does lead to increased traffic on Chambers
And-
Street crossing.
And
It's-
and
it's,
I think it defeats the whole purpose of what the whole thing for congestion pricing was, which was to keep traffic off the local streets, keep it on the
Right.
FDR.
I agree with that, but I also don't think, honestly, that the MTA is gonna listen to anything that we have to say right now, because they know that everybody's just, has really strong opinions about congestion pricing, and so they're gonna kind of throw it over their shoulder.
But Brandon, I think, but for this one, since some of the electeds that were talking in the board meeting yesterday were kind of like,
They
this
wanna
seems,
fix it.
whether you're for congestion or against congestion, it was almost like, you know, both parties were kind of like sympathetic to the bureaucratic snafu that the 80 feet is causing, and that's why I would like to at least support, like, say that, support that.
Would it help Grace Lee make her point, because I think she also that she's.
That's where I'm coming from, Brandon, yeah.
I think
Yes.
she's more.
Yes. A
Terrible
resolution
digress.
is what she's looking for from us.
Okay, but I also don't know if it would pass, to be honest.
Yeah,
So I think-
that's true, but
I like kind of don't care.
Yeah, just trying to
I
help.
think it's fun to talk
I
about.
don't think it's, so I came in here, I did draft something against this, asking the MTA to change this. I don't think this is the biggest problem in the world, so I would be okay with letting it sit. But my biggest concern with this honestly is just that I think a lot of people look at this and just have a bad reaction to it because it is a hyper technicality that's gonna get people charged $15, but it's not in keeping with the spirit of congestion pricing.
Right.
And I want congestion pricing to succeed, and this sort of thing is just like, why do we have to do this?
So it's kind of like, gotcha.
We're on opposite ends of the spectrum, but we agree on the spirit of the thing.
I love how that happens.
Find its consistency. Why is some?
It's like the spirit of a rule in a sport.
Well, no, aren't they gonna have to put up more detectors? How are they gonna know that?
Don't worry about that.
Should we take a
What
vote
about
then?
infrastructure?
I think
Or
we're at
do
that-
you want to say what your resolution or therefore be resolved is?
Sure.
And maybe take a vote just to.
Sorry, so long.
Let me see what this is.
Do you want me to read it?
I'm gonna sit up until, I'm gonna take this exact.
Yeah, it is. I just wanted to
Good.
find it in the
At
first
this point,
Well,
so it's not like.
yes.
Actually, I remember the first one emerged.
Just wanted to be really clear what I'm talking.
I thought it looks good.
Okay, Jesse, I'll go in the elevator with you when we go home. We're good. I think we did the same elevator.
Did everyone read it? Do you have any questions about it?
It's simple.
All right, call the question.
Wait, what are we, I don't actually care. I'll vote yes.
Did you second?
Second.
I don't know, I mean, I don't know about the last changing, charging vehicles is for the balance of the arbitrary and unfair. Just undermining the.
I told him I would rewrite some of that, and I'd merge the first and third part.
Again, that's
But
fine.
again, keep in mind, even if he did change those things, the spirit of it is really that middle part only.
Mhm.
The rest of the changes could be made, they're just editorial changes, they wouldn't change the intent.
So we've had a second.
You know, the vote.
Let's run it without third piece in there.
Which way does it go though?
Do the consent.
Okay.
It says to change it.
To change it.
Why not?
To examine those,
Fix it. That's what they're asking for, so.
fix it, unless you're doing this.
Affirmation or roll call?
We might need to do roll call.
Oh,
Again.
Small enough that you could use it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, y'all, roll call. It's up to you. Y'all are the leaders.
Betty Kay,
I'm a no.
Jess Coleman, yes. Let it know. Voter against the judge. Mimi,
Yeah, why not?
Edge,
yes, sir.
Cody,
I guess, yes.
I don't care.
Netta,
Yes.
Yes, I'm voting for their.
Brendan,
Yes.
Eric,
Abstain.
Tammy.
Yes.
I just feel it.
Okay, it passes.
Wait, Jerry, did you?
I didn't.
Oh,
I don't, I really want to make sure that we,
Carrie.
I'm gonna vote no, because I'm concerned about Gotham Park as well, and the traffic and the accident stuff there. I just want to make sure that, I'd like to have them come back with data, so.
Carrie.
Yes.
You know, Gotham Park
Yes.
doesn't own that land yet. They're a
Nobody
long,
owns the land, it's public, right? Nobody owns it.
DOT has jurisdiction over it, so I know
Right.
it's part of the Gotham long-term plan, but DOT has a long-term, short-term plan that they're working on first. So that can always be changed down the line. I'm just telling you that as DOT has
I'm
to
not
finish
making
their
my
projects
choice
first.
based on, I'm not thinking of it as a park, I'm thinking of it as a public space with public utilization and cars. So it's the conflict between use that I'm thinking about, it's not about whose jurisdiction it is.
Far out of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so anyway, but I voted no, and, I'd like to have them come back in, in a year's time with data to see what actually happened.
Cody.
I fully agree with you. I come back with data, it shows us, how traffic patterns are impacted by this 90-foot stretch of.
The laws can be changed or not changed. I mean, there's no coming back later, which I think is Tammy's point.
Well.
If you ask them to fix it, that may take some legislation, it may not, but whatever they have to do, they're not gonna come back in a year and say, oh, it's different now, what do you think? It's gonna be a done deal by then.
I think we voted, so I think we're good, and I think
Yeah.
see what
What's
they
next?
say.
Yeah, I want the Manhattan Borough presidents to take that highway out anyway, so
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, next.
Okay.
That's it, right?
Onward and upward.
Yeah, we got one more.
Rest of our-
Alright.
Well, this one's saying to preserve it as an important road, and then you say, let's move.
Systems.
We have a screen, the south, FDR, I think it is.
It's weird.
Well, it just makes sense to make sure more people travel at that. Yeah, we're done with this.
Fortunately, it's working.
Did it go to sleep?
It's the spirit of the,
Look at
It's
Harvard.
one thing you better.
What's next?
Is it because?
Well, yeah, go back. This one is about a new case, you've probably seen it in the news. But this is about the obstructions of the public right of way by parked city-owned vehicles and vehicles with city-issued parking placards. But very specific to the,
Small issue.
sorry. First of all, for those of you who didn't see, first of all, there was all the noise recently about a Department of Investigation, a city agency, and their report that was looking specifically at NYPD placard abuse or not. And if you go to the next one, you can see some of their findings. One, I can do the click. Hard for me to see. The NYPD has ordered its officers to curb the contentious practice. Anyway, they talk about the real problems of the police parking on the sidewalks. Combat parking is when they're turned 90 degrees and they kind of back onto the sidewalk. They found a lot of that. They found, especially around the station houses.
What about FDNY? Could they do that on Beacon?
This particular DOI report looks specifically, or appears to look at the NYPD, because that's all I could find in the report. Why they chose that group, that I can't answer. But anyway, this one, and this came out on April 3rd. Next. Again, they don't really have any written policies or procedures about the self-enforcement zone, which is what they always call around the station houses. But they have nothing to regulate it, so they can say, well, we can park everywhere we want because no one's going to enforce it. So these are some of the complaints that came up.
Self-enforcement?
Don't try to make sense of it.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
It's called, it's corruption.
Yeah, I mean. Fascinating.
Yeah, and build a uniform parking permit so genuine and fake can be readily identified. I mean, these are pretty obvious things. These are the recommendations of this report, and how ridiculous their findings were, how absurd what they found was. It was so rampant. Anyway, next, but that wasn't the last group. Going into the Justice Department came in, and actually their letter preceded the DOI report by about a week, but it wasn't released until about a week after the DOI report was. And they are looking at NYPD and top sidewalk parking. They're going after the problem of blocking the right of way for people with disabilities. Because of course, that's what the feds, they're trying to enforce the Americans with Disability Act and saying that New York, they're threatening to sue New York City and the NYPD. So that's what this story, hence the focus of this particular resolution. So they have demanded that the NYPD stop allowing its officers to park illegally around the station houses, resulting in all the obstruction. And in the report by the DOI too, they acknowledge that it goes on to streets. It's not just around its blocks away from the station houses. So they did acknowledge that, and a lot of this work was done in our district. The event that we determine we can't secure compliance, then we may have to initiate a lawsuit. Not a big shock. I'll show you some of the history of that in New York City as well. And then they also claim about how they use a lot of streets blog reporting, but you can get a lot on Twitter as well. There's lots of pictures all the time. Sorry, it's on X, but they still tweets. Is it easier thing to say?
You can just walk
Anyway, and this is what they did. Department of Justice in Sue Williams, this Southern District. And you can see the kind of things they recommend doing. And I just can't imagine the NYPD doing it. Nevertheless, and keep in mind, it's two local laws. They're saying, why don't you just try to enforce these laws? That would be nice. Local law 6 of 2020 asked them for a report on the placards and the misuse of them by the police department. And they just haven't bothered to report it since 2020.
They're not going to police themselves, you know that.
And well, and there was a tweet on X from Gail Brewer, who had that bill, reminding them, please, to follow local law 6. So this has been coming from all quarters.
Whoa.
Go to the next one.
Oh.
Yes, that's next. Thank you. And this is just to show that you'll be able to see this. Often with the police, when I would confront someone in person, they say it's in our union contract, and it isn't. Union contract clearly says, and there's a new one since then. I doubt it's been changed dramatically. They said it when this one was current, which was until about a year ago. And they talk about the DOT and the city have promised us land and parking, and no, they haven't. It specifically says, we do not promise you a place to parking or to find places for you to park, you have to work within our current laws of where placards are allowed, and they have to be legal placards. Next one, I think, this is the mayor's response, mayor's office response, because it's actually from a deputy mayor. I'm speaking for him, for the office. Any vehicle that blocks the path, sounds very compliant, doesn't it? Having a pedestrian, especially those with mobility limitations, is unacceptable. And it's unacceptable as a public servant's private vehicle. They're going after placards as well as the city vehicle, city-owned vehicles. And how they're serious and going to address it, but they have given no plan for how they plan on addressing it. And there have really been very few changes, which there have been lots of, photos on X coming up every day showing that the station houses look just the same as they did before. That's one station house, made dramatic changes, and it wasn't around us.
Yeah.
Next. So again, we talk about there are 3 different laws. This is again from the deputy mayor. And she points to the successes of these 3 different areas. One of them being that the largest accessible for hire fleet that is, that is accessible. Also the actual streets with the pedestrian signals, as well as the ones for the pedestrian ramps. All of these followed lawsuits in federal court. So it is kind of disingenuous when they say, look at all these things we've done. Because they all demanded a federal lawsuit before they were done. So given that, it's really sad, because I wish the city would cooperate and come up with a plan.
Yeah.
But anyway, if we're gonna go, because we have lots of record going against our concerns about placard parking and city vehicle parking. So for the mayor and city council, I'd be interested in getting your comments. You can look at this, and I want to hear comments from people.
Tammy has her.
Well, you should want to hear from the committee first, so let's.
Yeah.
Let's open the room.
I think they shouldn't be able to park on the sidewalk the way that they've been in combat, whatever. But if they're willing to pay for the MTA to fix the subways and prime contractors. Because they have to pay, like congestion pricing could fix some of this, right? Is that possible?
Not necessarily, because people are still gonna want them, is it gonna reduce enough that there aren't gonna be people with cars that wanna park them?
No, I
There are
mean,
a lot of
like
people-
will they not drive to work in the district?
Oh, that's
Because
not no.
congestion pricing.
Certain amount probably won't, and if parking costs go up, that would have another effect.
Yeah.
As long as they can park for free, it's probably still worth their while. But who can say what an individual chooses to do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The problem is there's a shortage of parking by the police precincts. And how do we reduce that demand? They need the parking, the police,
why,
because
doctors and nurses maybe?
this is reality. They don't live here, where they live outside, and that's the way it is.
What about doctors and nurses?
But we're not gonna change that. We're not gonna change that, and they're not gonna.
No.
Yeah, like all of our government essential.
A lot of people who work in the city live outside the city. They don't have the option to park on the sidewalk, and I can take them. But that's the thing that is different. If they didn't have that option, maybe they wouldn't be driving.
They also work all hours, right? It's physically taxing.
Doctors
and-
and nurses,
and-
and not a hotel.
And think about it, they're dealing with criminals.
There's a lot
They're
of.
dealing with criminals. Are they really gonna wanna take the subway?
Wouldn't the subway be a little bit safer if they were?
Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, yeah, actually, they can ride for free.
So why doesn't
Maybe
Because
it's a
it-
difference because
Because where you live is coming driving in from the Poconos at 3 o'clock in the morning and to park your car like up in the North Bronx and then take the train back after a shift. I mean, I agree, I hate the placards, but the reality is that, and most doctors make about 5 times as much as cops also, so there's a different, pay structure there too.
But
nurses in the office.
I mean, technically, you're right.
the message that this sends, cars parked on the sidewalk, the chaos on sidewalks and other places where they park willy-nilly wherever they want. It sends like a really negative message to average citizens anyway. It's just like the lawlessness at the top, of the enforcement is like, excusable. We're above the law. We're the ones who are supposed to be enforcing the law. It's just, it's a height of arrogance. And I think that, you know, we absolutely should do everything we can to, you know, encourage, you know, the police to police themselves. And also, I mean, I don't know where, you know, I would hope that the district person cuts down, you know, the number of people driving in. But those who do drive, perhaps, you know, carving out, I don't know where that would be, like a place where the, you know, could flag for parking legally, just like everyone else, you know, but, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's something that.
Yeah, Brendan.
in principle,
What if you're-
I don't want to conflate like the lack of parking availability with them parking on the sidewalks. I don't want them parking on sidewalks. Y'all figure out another option.
Yeah.
We got a lot of parking garages
Mhm.
that they can probably strike up a deal with. We have public street parking. They
Yes.
don't need to be on the sidewalk. Yeah.
So I do agree. I don't want them. I think that's the most egregious and it's safety or just even trying to get from point A to point B on a sidewalk. So, but there is a demand that they need it. So we should not just say with the stick, you know, don't do this. And I don't know how we're gonna do that but they need a separate unit to enforce. No one enforces them. No one can self-enforce. That's a fallacy. So I don't want new laws or new regs, because they're not gonna be enforced. But we need a separate unit to enforce these rules, and we should address the parking shortage.
Go to the
Betty,
next
I nominate
slide.
you.
Wait 1 second, go to the next slide for a second. There may be one more. No, there isn't. I thought there was a thing saying to transfer it to the DOT.
The second one.
Okay, the second one, because CB1 has a history of doing that. So there is a precedent where we have had a resolution. It was in 2020, specifically asking to move it from the NYPD to the DOT in the first place.
Betty, I agree with everything you're saying, and I would vote for this. I'm just saying, in my personal experiences, I've never seen anybody from the DOT enforce the plaque cars or the cop cars or the fire cars that have been double and triple parked or parking on the street.
That's not their job right now.
DOT isn't it?
Oh, okay, then. And, all right,
Yeah, that was in the past, but it's been with the NYPD for quite a while.
I'm just, maybe I'm going back like 70 years, but, you know, my life, okay,
Not that long, but it was a while ago.
okay. Okay, fine, that sounds fine.
So yeah, any other comments? Because again, is it our business to find parking for the police? I would say not really.
Not really.
Our job is more to fix the sidewalks.
Right.
Tammy.
Yeah, sorry, Tammy. Tammy?
Yeah, sorry, I have a couple of questions. First and foremost, it might come from Kate. I believe the ticket agents have a separate union. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if they have a separate union, but I believe traffic enforcement agents are separate from NYPD police officers.
I follow this. Yeah, they have a separate union, actually, yeah, but since they're all under the command of the NYPD, they're not gonna be
The
different.
report said that.
Okay, hold on. Get where hold on, I hear you, but get where I'm going on this, because if they are separate from NYPD in terms of, you know, whatever we're talking about, then you have union issues between asking an entire division to move to a different agency. So I think that there's concerns or conditions or whatever you want to call it that I have that go along with this request to move parking enforcement from NYPD to NYC DOT. I don't know if that's actually going to be significantly possible if what we're talking about is union shifts and things like that, which is a concern that needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? We need to really take a look at that and see what we're talking about for that and see. So I think I also, no offense intended, but DOT has a huge amount of responsibility right now with the fact that they will have to enforce outdoor dining and everything that goes with that, and that hasn't been set up. So we also have not had a lot of help, no offense intended, to DOT about trying to reduce the agency parking that we have. And agency parking is a massive issue, which so it's not only this, meaning these guys on the sidewalks, but we also, if you walk around where some of the press conferences and things are by one center, there's been a huge amount of permits for press and others to park on the sidewalks and on the landmarks and on the in around on. So I think I 100% agree this needs to be done, but I don't think necessarily moving parking enforcement from NYPD to DOT is the right necessarily answer, but I'd like to see what the opportunities are, and I'd like to hear from DOT whether they even feel that that's maybe physically possible.
I can't comment on that.
Yeah, I can't comment.
Yeah, somehow I knew that was going to be my answer on that. Sorry.
Tammy, Tammy, are you suggesting that one, we either delay it by a month and do more investigation into it, or are you saying just strike that completely and work with the others?
I think I would I think me personally, I would ask to move parking enforcement from NYPD, but not necessarily to DOT, and just say to an agency that can be held independent in order to compel compliance to the laws. You understand what I mean? It doesn't make a difference to me if it's DOT or not, but I know that there's union questions in there and there's other things. What we really want is enforcement, no matter who
Yeah,
was it.
I agree with you, Tammy. I'm just gonna say that the only way this gets solved is if there's citizen enforcement. And I know that we've talked about that many times and we
Oh, absolutely.
agree on it.
First point too,
I-
actually the state reps were talking about that.
I don't think I really believe there's no form of law breaking that is as widespread as illegal parking. And it's only gonna be solved if if we allow people to actually report it and enforce it, taking out city agencies entirely.
Well, and technology.
And use of technology, yeah, it's not gonna be solved by transferring it.
Because that's exactly what, placard corruption and every other activist who is against, placard corruption is doing now on social media. People post pictures all the time, shame, the NYPD for its blatant arrogance.
There's no other way to do it. And then
Cody, there's somebody in Battery Park City who had done that, and actually they posted widely about it, and they actually have had personal struggles and issues with because it became known who they were. So I'm yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'll keep that in mind.
I'll just
why they did
it doesn't personally it doesn't stop me from posting on X about our need for getting agency parking and placards and everything under control. I just think that it's an important thing. We should make a note somewhere in the whereases about there is too much agency parking, and in the route to claw back our streets, we should really, I believe, rescind every agency parking and then have them reapply and look at it new. Right? But I think that where we go is to remove parking enforcement away from NYPD to enable them to be either autonomous or work or under and partnered with a different agency that will watchdog to enforce the laws. And I don't know if DOT is the right one or not. Certainly one would think so because they're in control of the sidewalks, but and the streets. I just don't know if there's a bandwidth. I don't know if the union marriage works. I don't know any of that. And instead of making the assumption, I'd rather leave that particular part open-ended.
What about just saying move parking enforcement from the NYPD, period?
Yeah,
An independent agency, period.
Yep.
I think we just need to keep pushing this.
Yeah, right.
We also make a separate bullet for adding the citizen reporting, and I feel like we need a strong statement on just we heavily disapprove of the obstruction sidewalks by placards.
all placards, because they're not
Yeah.
the only ones. As-
Yeah, I mean, I like the rest estimates. I agree with the, like, I'm fine with the citizen reporting. I just want it to be a strong statement about like, we don't want the destruction of sidewalks, everything else.
Yeah. There's also, legislation proposed to revoke all existing placards, which would be another solution that could actually put a dent in this
I
problem.
get behind that.
That's what Tammy just said.
Yep.
She said to revoke all of them, and then you have to reapply under more stringent rules.
Okay, I mean,
Sure.
I would get rid of the reply part, but yeah, revoke them all. There is a bill to do that.
And then you have to reapply under more stringent ruals.
Give me that rule, I mean, that legislation, you know, we can look at that.
Yeah.
And I got,
wanna
I
see
got,
that- Sorry.
when we're talking about residential parking and residential caps and all the rest of the crap that goes with the conversations these days, I think that, you know, we should be fighting as hard as we can about the placards because it is so huge in our area, and agency parking as well. And I gotta, you know, and I think the review for those things should probably come through. Me personally, I think the community should be able to weigh in.
Oh, thanks. I want to add that parking enforcement used to be separate from NYPD. It used to be Department of Traffic. And that, they did that about 20 years ago. Actually, maybe probably longer. But then parking enforcement, they need to be equally armed. Because some of the people that they would be enforcing against will be armed. So it can't just be writing tickets. So maybe this would be under the jurisdiction of the sheriff.
We don't have the resources.
Okay.
I thought we-
Yeah, but
Okay, I just want to mention that it's more than just writing a ticket, because sometimes there's deterrence in other ways. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll lay out more of the problem and we'll just
Yeah.
mention part of the solution, but you're right. The solution's too detailed in that area for us to really dive too much into. And Brendan, in response to your, so that last one you wanted to change. If it's where it says, well, the whole last bullet,
Yeah.
if it just ended with they must be accessible, is that adequate?
Sorry, Betty, can you repeat that?
Well, I feel like there should be a bullet that says we should consider legislation that would allow citizen reporting.
Well, to pass legislation to allow citizen reporting.
The citizens can report already.
But then nothing happens.
Perfect.
Oh,
No, we don't have it.
It gets routed to the NYPD.
okay.
We're just going to say with Brendan, because he's.
So bullet for allowing for reporting city, vehicles, blah, 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 with issue placards. And then I want there to be to me, it's the top bullet, which is, like, vehicles that are obstructing sidewalks, pedestrian ramps, like, we are opposed to that. Because I think that goes back to what the research is. So like a bullet that says we are opposed to the, like, placard or cars or any cars obstructing sidewalks, pedestrian ramps, crosswalks, et cetera, et cetera. So just to make like that single strong statement of like, we are against our sidewalks being obstructed.
Yeah, it's almost like you take that obstructing sidewalks.
That's the only thing. Excuse me, this is Miriam Braverman. I was told to unmute myself a little while ago and I did, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be called on to speak or what's the plan.
You are hereby called on.
I can't.
Sorry?
You are hereby called on. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's okay. Here's what I wanted to say about this. First of all, and I don't know if I heard everything clearly because for some reason my computer just isn't as loud as usual, although it's at my max. Number one, I don't think any public servant has the right to park their own car wherever they want because they like to use it to commute to work. I think if a job requires them to use their car to commute, then the job should give them a safe place to park it. Secondly, our biggest problem in Battery Park City, and I know this is to cover the whole area, but where they park not just on sidewalks, in fact, they rarely go on sidewalks. They cover the curb cuts, they fill in the bus stops, and it makes tremendous danger for people who have to get around them or try to walk out in the middle of the street to see if a bus is coming. So I wouldn't want to see this limited just to the parking on the sidewalks, which was, I read in the paper, the complaint from some of the boroughs as to what police are doing.
Yeah, what complaints about is actually obstructing sidewalks, pedestrian ramps, crosswalks, bike lanes, bus lanes, and I will add bus stops.
Right. I mean, they're all over our north neighborhood in Battery Park City, and they create tremendous hazard for anybody trying to get through there. Also, I did put in the chat that the traffic agents seem to be, this was a quick lookup I did, but repped by the Communications Workers of America. That's their union. Okay. Thank you.
Just the bullet 3, it says city issued placards. And I do know placards get issued by a lot of different, they could be issued by state or by federal, so you might not want to limit
Government issued?
to just city issued.
I'd like it to say government issued. That'll get us city, state, and federal.
So I just said,
Yeah.
fence park on the sidewalk by the Irish Hunger Memorial.
And right here, is there no chance of us specifically mentioning our support for the current proposed legislation on citizen enforcement? Should we not even go down that road? Or
Is it still?
I wasn't going to because
introduce this issue?
in the past it's been because that is not limited as this would be to city-owned vehicles and placards.
Placard, that's right. That's true. That's true.
So it's open a can of worms at this time. I don't think it's appropriate to add to this.
Okay.
Okay, that I I was gonna say we should oppose obstruction of sidewalks by any vehicle, which would then dovetail with the citizen reporting on.
The whereases really go back to these two instances, the DOI report and the feds coming out now with their comments, which is why it's also more focused at the NYPD, except I broadened it here to all city employees, not just NYPD. There's no point to just target them.
It says citizen reporting, would that be for, do they get a bounty, or is it just to be able to report it?
Not gonna comment.
Because I don't like the bounty aspect of it, I don't want, that's,
I stayed away from it completely. Citizen reporting, but how they do it, it could be 311 for all I care.
Exactly.
If somebody would actually do it, and there was someone who would actually enforce it from that, just as this particular district attorney who looked at it from looking at Twitter, seeing the reports, sorry, that it's easier to say Twitter. But because I looked at these various tweets and said, you know, over and over again, you see all these pictures in real time.
Yeah.
We hadn't raised
Betty?
public awareness.
Are you, is the word city owned being changed in every part of the therefore be it resolved? So the number of government owned vehicles and workers all the way through to the bottom?
What do people think about that when it comes to government owned, period, versus city owned? Obviously, there's way too many of them because you can see them everywhere.
Before they answer, I will say that would, if we change it to government, it would help us with Port Authority. It would help us in North Battery Park where we have
Station.
Troopers are now parked at.
Yeah, right by our house, there's a bunch of state agencies that would
Exactly.
supersede the city thing. Yeah.
Although if you saw, they used to park on the sidewalk on Trimble Place, but they recently put up homes that say no parking right after the,
We could take
You
it.
know where they're parking? They're parking where the old food emporium is. They have they've taken about a third of the parking garage there and it's all state troopers. Yep.
Wow. Jesse, let's take this up another couple of months time.
Well, to take it one step farther, since you're dealing with that, that was talking about city owned being changed to government owned vehicles as well as issued placards.
Sure.
We're talking about both.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'll change those throughout, but again, those are with the whereas, that's just going through them, it doesn't appear that many times.
you were interrupted before, I believe.
It's okay.
Handbook, I need,
Sorry, I did that.
I think we're ready to call the question.
Didn't call it.
okay.
Second.
Realizing that to do what Brendan wants to do, it may be better to make it a separate, therefore be it resolved versus trying to add it into the one with the bullets, but that's That's an editing thing, that's not.
Okay,
Can you do roll call or we do it by itself?
I think we could do.
I think it's nice.
okay.
Okay, any nays? Any abstentions? Any recusals? It's unanimous, thank you.
It will be me, Mr. Ed.
Unanimous placards.
What a penny.
This is great.
Yes, that was,
Awesome job. Thank you.
thank you. What I wanted to remind people about was in case you go to full board, well, I hope you go to full board at the end of the month. You will not hear about the revocable consent as one of the resolutions. Because it's due to the DOT, the response is due to the DOT before that date. It will be finalized at executive committee. So don't look for it for full board. If you want to comment, go to executive committee. It's just a different style because of the due date on the CD1's response to the DOT
Actually-
at that point.
Betty, it will go to full board as well. It'll get ratified, it'll be passed in executive. And that way we file our focus for the government as our bylaws state, and then it'll just get ratified at the full board.
Now you understand what ratification means. It means it's probably already sent to the DOT anyway. Because of the executive. So if you want your vote, you know, the system's different and that's just, I want to explain to you why it's different.
Thank you.
I'm curious about that.
We got news updates.
Okay.
These, look,
Can you come on, Valerie?
yes, yeah, please.
I'm gonna miss your news update, which I was.
Oh,
It's
no. You
local.
can see how it's taken. There is so much news right now,
Let's take care of this.
but it's all pretty quick and hopefully it's stuff you've already heard. One, we had the earthquake and yes, it did shut down things. The airplanes were delayed. It has a pair of news.
Yes.
To do that.
They shouldn't be in the right lane. They should be in traffic.
They're putting in a solar array at the JFK airport. So there's gonna be some changes, yeah.
Climpy looks like it's Johnson.
No.
I know. Long-term parking, yeah, that's where they're going to install it, so if you ever want to go see it, then JFK. They found it useful,
Taking away the parking lot or?
so they're putting above it.
Good night.
Later, have fun.
There's so much construction going on at County Airport now, the air train's not going to every terminal now, you have to. The hundreds, right?
It seems like everywhere has
It's in New
construction.
York too.
Yes, there was I think, city council hearing about a week ago on helicopter noise and safety. So there should be a lot of activity going on in this, and there's a lot of legislation out there right now about trying to ban helicopters from city-owned. Yeah, the more cities using AI-powered cameras to keep bus lanes clear, and some that came to DOT here was using it. Just so you know, as a fact that they've been some of the leaders in the country on that.
There's an article today about how much they cost. It's pretty expensive.
What do
I'm
they,
sure these are probably from the federal government grant.
how do they clear bus lanes?
I couldn't find that information.
Okay. I wonder how a camera clears a bus lane.
Probably because it has a way to spot different things, and it probably does ticketing.
Just delete it.
There's a car.
The bus doesn't see it, so they go away.
It's generative AI, so.
Yes, I got the first electric Access-A-Ram ride, so even there.
God.
Again, our beautiful.
Thanks.
Again, this came after a bigger order of not electric, but nevertheless. It is a step forward. Next. Oh, the fare evasion, the usual, we're having all kinds of problems. The fare evasion is not. And their MTA is gonna do something about it. And we'll see. The more concessions. The 6-minute bus service that they're trying to increase the amount of service that's out there because of advanced condition pricing. We'll see how that goes. But Albany did put money in the budget for that, so hopefully it will come through. But there will be a trade-off. The free bus pilots that are out there will not be renewed. So, the MTA is planning new discounts on the And see, to show you something that's starting to fall in place for congestion pricing.
I read it was just 10%. I could be wrong, but I thought they were just reducing it 10%.
It's 10%, and I believe it was also, well, 10% is good.
Which I thought was
but
very
it was also only within the city, and so there's
Right.
some way of saying, wait, what about us? If you don't want us, bring it up.
That 10% seems a little low with the conditions, but anyway.
So we're still waiting to hear what happens
Yeah.
with that, but that's where it's going. You're
Like
right.
if you're just going to the baseball games.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to go to the congestion center. They don't give those details, but.
I don't know if this will go.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It just starts there, but that doesn't, sorry.
Yeah, and more express bus service, and they're looking at the where there's been the most ridership, and they're been beefing that up a bit, so. See more of those. Some of them come into Battery Park City, so. Staten Island. Heads up, congestion relief zone toll discounts and exemptions, and now you can sign up at MTA if you are in the qualifying groups. That just went active fairly recently. Let people know. So whether you're going for the low income discount, which is not the same one as the low discount, 60,000 gross, those who live in the zone, because there you have the tax thing. This is the one that was with the EIS. The Fed said you have to do something for the lower income. So it's for everybody in the city potentially that makes 50,000 or less gross income. They get it after 10 trips, they get exempt. So that qualifies for this. The MTA needs to boot this information into they still need to get the information into their system so they don't tell you in the first place, exceeding whatever the rules are for your group. So the low income tax for just that federal 50,000 group, not the 60,000. The disability exemptions, I could go enter a license plate now.
We're gonna start riding around with patio.
Betty was against that exemption and I was arguing for her.
Well,
Well, I'm not gonna sign any
it's a
card.
different exemption than the original one that they had, right?
But yes, they did change it because they did do what I asked them.
Nice.
Yeah, they also found that it was completely impractical with what they were planning on doing. They did change it. It went further than I would go, but nevertheless, they changed it dramatically. So anyway, all the people with various legitimate exemptions are now filing with the MTA, and that's going into, to apply to us next. Yes, Matt BP has been working, maybe and other people working with public bus. Asking the MTA to improve their restroom accessibility, which is great. It's a tribute to that transportation. In fact, the parking fees are now being paid by plate number. So for those, one, they're gonna get rid of these little tickets. It'll all be done digitally, but that also means you can't transfer it to somebody else if you don't use it. Because it's your plate only.
The city's double dipping, you know.
Is that a thing that people do?
I guess.
Technically, the parking ticket can be transferred, you can give it to somebody if you were.
It used
Technically,
it
that's-
used to be when they had the meters and you had the time. And so let's say you put in an hour because you don't know how long you get to shop and then 15 minutes and then somebody else, you gets 10 minutes because the city, you're getting paid it. So that, then when it became the other thing, unless you give the person your remaining time, the city was kind of like double dipping, charging like double rent for the time. And it's just similar, but without the paper.
This is to warn you now that it's going to change as they go to these digital platforms, because you can't.
You're right, I just worry about some elderly people that are still living, you know, with that can't do that stuff.
Car and your product, in a congested zone, don't worry about them.
Well, Betty, just because you have a car doesn't mean that you're wealthy, Betty.
You should write like multiple instructions.
You have, it's really condescending, you know, like there's a lot of people on this, in this board that like be condescending, like the people that snickered at Eric last night, that when he brought up some points about the congestion pricing, and then people were snickering, it's the same thing. Everybody is not as privileged as some of the people that live in CB1.
You're misreading what people are doing. They're thinking, oh my God, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. That's what they're laughing at.
Well, and Eric's like, yeah, you were
Oh,
getting in
thanks.
there. Which was, I mean, you brought it up almost every single time. And when you didn't, you made a joke about it, and that was fun.
Exactly.
It bothered me when people were like acting really condescending when he brought up something, I mean, okay, it's.
Yes,
so-
yes.
No, yeah, I hear you.
Anyway, Google is, since we were done in Google before, and they may do this poorly, but they now be putting new EV charging stations on Google Maps. So for those who have been complaining about where do I find them, it should be changing. Next. Oh, yeah, the new cargo bike rules, which I've gone over already. Now you know that they're out there. We can have up to 48 inch. So I looked around the neighborhood and I asked people to tell me, these were within a block or two of where I live, so I took pictures of them. They shouldn't be on the sidewalk, I acknowledge. Bring it up, nevertheless. This was a display one, I think, for one after the nevertheless. And this company, if you go to the next one, it's the website for the company that owns that particular drive. It's a Brooklyn-based, and this is in fact a logistics company that will do deliveries for businesses. That's the kind of business that they are. Plus they sell ads to advertise your name, but the next one,
They really got out there.
which was only a block away from where, this was in the other direction from where I lived. And this, if you go to the next one, is a company, it probably could be a franchise, it could be that they just have more, but they are non-toxic cleaning services. And so the various vendor owns, and they have, this is their own cargo bike that they use to do their business with.
Is that a,
That's a bike?
Yeah.
it looks like a little
cargo
car. Does that have,
Well, but
does it have an airbag?
So does it, yeah,
we can only go up to 15 miles per hour. I don't think it's required.
so.
Okay.
That was the change in the rules. They have to be pedal assist and it's up to 15 mile per hour
15,
maximum.
15 is totally
15.
reasonable.
So they ride in traffic, automobile traffic lanes, right?
They can at 40 inches, yeah.
Even though it's.
Eddie, are there rules on the advertising that were put for this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the advertising is
I have no idea.
excruciating. Just what we need.
You'll go blind, you'll like stop seeing it after.
It's just like business, commercial fans, I guess it's kind of the same thing, but nevertheless. I was surprised how quickly I started to see these things in my neighborhood.
I guess we shouldn't have been.
For those who are talking more about the concerns about bicycles and other things, I thought you might be interested in this Upper West Side forum, because it'll give you some insight into what the various elected officials are thinking of what's going on at the city and the state level. It's actually quite enlightening. And it is on YouTube, so you can see it at any time that you want, so I put that there. And it was sponsored, as you can see, locally, and involved some of the elected officials on it. He did, it's kind of a backhanded, not a perfect bill by any means. This was interesting. But was going to sponsor it because I didn't realize you had to have 34 sponsors and then a bill has to be heard. So he was going on as a sponsor because he wanted the bill heard, not because he was necessarily going to vote for it. He wouldn't commit on that. Who? I didn't know that. This was a town council person up in the Upper West Side, not someone. And this was about Robert Holden's bill, a specific bill that has to do with licensing bicycles and scooters. But they talked about lots of things. The other politicians also on there, though, are going in a different direction, and they are looking for a less comprehensive registration requirement. They're looking at a package of state bills. Trying to bring up, there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't think so. We did our mopeds, I don't think we did our bicycle license.
Gotcha. Well, mopeds was just like a pamphlet, right? Like, which the police already had, apparently, they already had.
Well, no, this at state level, it would still be law that you had to register.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Yeah.
This is also involved with state, what they're saying at state, the moped changes they're making are different from the bicycle. They're talking about bicycle ones very specifically here, not moped.
Yeah, yeah, I'd like to, because like Zach and I were talking about, because he was thinking that mopeds had to be like specifically like motor vehicle, like internal combustion vehicles that had a certain CC rating, and they don't, which I'm still victorious about. And
You win.
I win, I was right. But it goes by speed, right? And so, I just don't understand how some e-bikes don't count.
Because they're under different legislation, but it's interesting because some of them don't meet. I recall when it was passed originally, my eyebrows really went up when they had the class 3, because the 20 mile per hour was the second class two, which I thought was adequate. It exceeds that, it's like 26 or 28 miles per hour with a class three.
That would make it a moped.
Well, to me, the line was getting too fine, and so why were they crossing that line, but defining it as bicycle?
Yeah.
So again, it's how they define it at the state level and why they did that, I still do not understand, and I never really supported it, but it did happen.
Like, I think if there's some human motion involved, then maybe that could be considered a bicycle.
No, these were, the law itself at the time, it was throttle.
Whoa, okay.
Okay. So keep in mind, the state and the city are kind of going in different directions and around, and so that's why nothing is really coming to the end yet. Talking about bike lanes paving the way, this was just a comment in a medical thing. They talked about Edinburgh can do it, put in bike lanes. With these very old streets and all these cobblestones, any city can do it. We need more bikes for health. DOT is pushing some education around e-bikes and saying, watch out, because sometimes they speed up faster than you'd think, and they are assuming some of the crashes into pedestrians' involvement and probably are due to that. The riders really don't understand the rapid acceleration. Just like with cars, same issue. The DOT moving into the freight.
What?
Taking on the freight issue some more, and the next one. I'm sorry. Yeah, the number of vehicles, they're going to give some incentives to doing overnight deliveries to get them off the streets in the day.
Sounds loud, doesn't it?
There are numerous aspects of this, which I didn't know all of them into, but there are things about which they can do specifically about sound because of the night hours. So those things are being dealt with. So anyway, there's an incentive program coming that various trucking companies can sign up for. And again, they're wanting to dovetail it with congestion pricing, which is also cheaper at night. So this could be more impetus for the DOT program. Next, because there are a lot of trucks, 94,000 of them, and climbing. Moving to off hour. One. And they have, this is a three-pronged approach. So there are multiple things to it, and it's really speaking to the truck owners and the fleet owners. But if you want to, go online and you can learn all about it, and we'll see what happens. There's a new UPS hub in Bayonne, New Jersey. What's interesting about it is they're going to have a marine dock so they can disseminate using the water systems, and also that will allow them to use e-bikes and other things. So UPS might be looking very much to find other options than the trucks that they currently use. We'll see.
When we had that presentation from the EDC about the Blue Highway, if you notice all of those, those proposed sites, it was all on the East River, none on the Hudson.
There's
Right.
one on the Hudson, wasn't there?
No.
No?
In fact, they're all in the southern, they're all Lower Manhattan or close to the northern edge of Lower Manhattan. And I think that was done on purpose because I think they have an idea in mind of what they want to link. Not that they want to stop there, but they wanted to fund, let's start with this, and it's like funding a pilot, or maybe what the city is looking at. Okay, yeah, a lot of deaths, and interesting to see them coming out the numbers. So again, yeah, traffic deaths, yeah, are way up this year. Bicycle deaths are down, cyclist deaths, but they were pretty hideous last year. And kind of interesting too, that none of these deaths occurred due to bicycle or moped.
They weren't on bicycles. Bicycle deaths were on bicycles.
No, the deaths to pedestrians.
Oh.
Next. Won't go forward?
Oh, I thought you were.
I thought it did change.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, cyclist deaths are going down. They're still pretty horrible, but nevertheless. And interesting is the report about the SUV and the larger vehicles were involved in 79%. I just happened to be on a call recently from the Regional Planning Authority Association did. And in fact, it was state level officials and others, and 80% of the vehicles now sold are either small trucks or SUVs. So at some point, this number, while it sounds horrible, 80% are SUVs or large vehicles, which means some of the garbage trucks and other, they can be really large vehicles. In fact, their percent of what's on the road is getting big anyway. So
Betty,
I think that, yes.
one of the problems that we have, and Deborah Glick has spoken about it extensively, was that NYPD does not have to take a report if a pedestrian is injured by a bicyclist. They should, but they haven't been. It took her, she's documented and talked about this, and NYPD has also admitted that they often do not report on pedestrians hurt by bicycles. So the data is, in terms of what's reported, is very skewed because you have to, but frankly, unless they're dead, you're not getting reporting.
Results would probably be reported.
Definitely e-bike deaths. That, like, there was an e-bike crash that killed a woman in Queens.
Yep.
Was it? Yeah, death temperature. Yeah. You just look it up. What's it?
Oh, where the cyclist
But anyway.
crashed into a parked car or something?
No, this was a cyclist like hit a woman on the sidewalk and she died.
First quarter of 2024.
No. Well, I think there was one a few days ago.
It's just something that, it's something that we need to ensure that somehow ends up being, especially because on the bike path and from the data and the conversations with the Hudson River Park Trust, there's a lot of injuries and actions in that area. Some of it by obviously people not belonging on the greenway that are on there that should be on a street, but a lot of that is not captured, and that's been a conversation that's gone on in the Hudson River Park Advisory Council dialogue, several times a year.
It's gone on in Streets Blog too, because they're also looking to get numbers. So it's not a one-sided view that there just isn't enough reporting, and it's not accurate either for those who've looked at that. So it's problematic on really every level.
I said this at Quality of Life, but I literally went to the police station to report it and they would not take a report. Yeah.
I've heard that, yeah, that's been reported before too. So you're not the first or both of the last case.
Think too, that there should be better calls for injuries as well as, injuries from automobiles as well, because we often focus on the number of deaths. The fact is that so many folks end up with life-changing. Everything, exactly.
I made my living looking at severe injuries. And there are some now looking at KSI for killed or seriously injured. So I have started to see that number, but it's very new and it's not always consistent.
Right.
But you're right. It definitely should. It's more than just deaths. But for Sammy, we did get a version of Sammy's Law in the state budget this year. Next. So now the city DOT could lower the speed limit. That doesn't mean they have to. Could, and doesn't mean on all streets. Just the authority that they could do it. So we don't know what's going to happen. And again, they did carve out some that if you're at least 3 lanes moving in the same direction, those roads cannot be put down. But the one I saw said they had to be outside of Manhattan as well. So those in Manhattan, that rule wouldn't particularly apply to them necessarily. But I don't see the DOT having great impetus to want to reduce. But we'll see. New Office of Livable Streets. Want to let people know, because you see some of the changes in the names of the organization that DOT has been doing. And the DOT focus is moving to streets that are not just for cars. And this new office is to rethink the streets as public spaces. So you're going to see more and more of it from DOT. And again, they want streets that are not binary. It's not cars and no cars. It's all the things which you've all seen. We have dining, we have all kinds of things on the streets and the sidewalks.
Betty?
Yes.
That goes back to the last slide that you were talking about. Livable streets is one of the things that we had talked about at executive last month of setting up a forum to have a conversation about that. including AIA and the Center for Public Spaces and other things that Laura was talking about. So it specifically tailoring it to the dialogue about pedestrian plazas. So it would be great if we could all get a sidebar meeting and see how we can push a dialogue for public engagement forward on this.
I can, and in fact, for the sake of where does the public realm team is a portion of the, is one of the.
We talked to, it's a
That's where
conversation I've had.
That's what Open Streets is, that's where.
Yep. Not,
So
not,
realm, and the pedestrian unit is moved into that group. Became that group. Open Streets, I was gonna ask about the Open Streets here. I was going to invite them to ask, to talk about their programming and how much they were actually using the streets and what they're gonna use them for. When I saw this, and there has been a change in the rules now, and in fact, there is more red tape, and there's a question of how it's going to affect these open streets. They've said it's going to affect them, but we can't really measure because it's too new at this point. But everything, including a hop stop, is now going to need a SAFO permit. And you have to be weeks in advance. So there's going to be a whole lot of bureaucracy put on top for these groups to try to do anything on the street that's open. And he says, you can see, DOT is going to control everything, but SAFO is going to require $1 million in liability insurance, plus a small event fee, which I saw was $25. And you have to file the fee up to 45 days notice. And that's where the Open Streets organizers were more concerned, how it would affect. Was all the paperwork and the advance notice, to get it done and get a response. And I want to remind everybody, Gotham Park, speaking of plazas and things, is having a community block party on May 4th from noon to 5 p.m. By all means, go over. And in fact, they're going to have people from the DOT to do some surveying and discussion about the Chinatown connection, which involves Park Row, in our district, involves Park Row, up towards north of us. Then, of course, we're talking about Kim Lau and a broader picture, but
Betty?
please go out, enjoy it, but you probably want to speak with the DOT reps that are there too. They want to get people involved.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I mean, what were you saying?
The slide before where you said there's rulemaking, have we seen that? Has that come to us? The proposed rule, where is the comment period on that one?
I really didn't spot anything in it. I really didn't.
We did see it, right?
Yeah, I saw it. I did not pick up anything in it. And obviously you needed somebody with Open Streets experience to say, oh, this is different and a big burden, because it completely blew by me reading it.
Would you send the link just so we know? That'd be great.
I will look for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I have it. Yeah, the block party. And this is funny, it's weird pictures. Sorry. This is an elephant. In fact, I didn't get a screen grab fast enough. The trunk was out, and so the branch was sticking straight out. It looked, well, it told me. But again, and it didn't block the bus's way, and so the bus driver had to give it something. And the elephant rolled down its trunk and let it pass. And it had to walk, still had to walk. Past the elephant.
Fake.
It's just not here.
But those who just really had too
Like
many,
in Africa somewhere.
and a really fair congestion
Or
price.
India or.
This was frightening to see. Yeah, these penguins, they get right to the edge, yeah. They don't know how to dive, they kind of fall off the edge.
Well, I saw that, Betty.
Yeah.
They kind of fall off.
The first time you've ever seen it.
But they were in the beginning, it was almost like they were human and apprehensive. And then after one did it, then they all, like lemmings, they followed.
Don't they push each other off at first?
It doesn't look like they're pushing.
No, you have to see it.
It's really.
It was, but the thing is, Betty, from the height that they did it, it would seem that unless it was a perfect dive, it would be like a hurtful belly flop.
Well, some of them are-
No, but it was really high. It was really
Penguins have a lot of fat on them, and I really like.
But you have to see it. It was from really high. Maybe it was from really high. Hey, that was good. I didn't know it. I didn't even know it.
Thank you, guys.